After the family went bankrupt, my father disappeared. My mother was in a coma due to grief, and the company owed a huge debt of tens of billions. I, Lu Feifei, the most beautiful woman in the city, was priced at 50 million and used as a commodity to repay the debt. The price soared to 1 billion, 1.5 billion. Just when everyone thought the result was decided, a deep voice came from the fourth floor. 3 billion. Cardiac arrest. It was him, Ji Tao. 8 years ago, I sneered at him. A poor boy like you is worthy of liking me? He laughed in anger and finally left in embarrassment. Today, he bought me for a sky-high price of 10 billion. Many years later, I gave birth to twins for him, but I didn't know that the real nightmare had just begun. Hi everyone, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And if you like this story, please let me know in the comment section. I will update the next part. The Liu family went bankrupt and owed a huge debt of tens of billions. My father fled and disappeared without a trace. My mother was sent to the ICU and was unconscious. And I, Lu Feifei, was decided to be auctioned to repay the debt. I was placed on a golden chair in the middle of the dimly lit hall. The spotlight above me was blinding, isolating me in the octagonal cage, but the discussions around me were particularly clear. I was wearing a white dress, barefoot, and my wrists were locked with a specially made silver medal ring. My long black hair was hanging down, hiding a bit of my embarrassment. I sat quietly, with endless darkness before my eyes. The crowd on the second floor were discussing. The most beautiful woman in Beijing has fallen to this point. How unpredictable things are. No matter who buys her, it's none of our business. We're just here to watch the fun. The real bidders sat in the box on the third floor. Behind the screen, a few familiar and disgusting voices could be heard. As for the fourth floor, the big man who had changed my destiny was vaguely hidden in the darkness. The auction was scheduled for 9:48, my birth time. This time was deliberately set by him as a humiliating reminder. I closed my eyes, feeling the commotion and endless coldness around me. When the time came, the starting price was 50 million. I didn't have any extravagant expectations. I just hoped that the price would be as high as possible so that I could pay off more debts. Soon, the price was raised to 300 million, then 500 million, and 1 billion. My fingers moved slightly, and I was thinking in the dark. The Lin family and the Yi family began to compete. Lin Zixuan, the man who had been chasing me for many years and wanted to melt my cold heart, was obviously determined to win tonight. 1.5 billion. Yi Hong's voice sounded mocking and provocative. Lin Zixuan showed no weakness and raised his sign. 1.6 billion. The auctioneer said excitedly. 1.6 billion. First time. I listened to their argument and felt only irony. Lin Zixuan's passion, Yi Hong's provocation. This scene was just their wrestling arena, and I was just a pawn. 16 billion the second time. When the auctioneer's hammer rang again, I heard Lin Zixuan walking around on the second floor. He seemed to be impatient and had the pride of a winner. However, the next second, a deep and powerful voice rang out from the fourth floor. 3 billion. My heart suddenly sank. It was him, the man I hated to the core but didn't want to see again. Didn't he hate me? Why did he make the offer? The whole audience was in an uproar, and someone exclaimed, Master Geo has taken action. He added 1.4 billion in one go. What a bold move. Lin Zixuan's curses were clear to my ears, but at this moment, my heart was filled with mixed emotions. Doesn't he hate me the most? What on earth does he want to do? Lin Zixuan was unwilling to give up and gritted his teeth and raised the price again. 3.5 billion. He stared at me, as if he wanted to rescue me from the auction with his will, but he could not hide his inner panic. In the darkness on the fourth floor, a low and cold voice was heard again. 5 billion. The voice was low and steady, but it carried an irresistible sense of oppression. I was shocked. I never thought that I would be bid so high. Lin Zixuan was obviously more stimulated. He looked up at the fourth floor and shouted, Master Geo, Lu Feifei, is someone you hate. Why bother snatching her? Ji Tao's answer was plain but ironic. This is an auction, not a vegetable market. If you want it, just bid. His tone was indifferent, with a strong indifference. Lin Zixuan gritted his teeth and raised his sign, saying 5.5 billion. He had no way to retreat and could only hold on to the end. Ji Tao sneered and said in a low voice, The Lin family is nothing more than this. Then he slowly poured the goblet in his hand, and the red wine dripped onto the ground and even splashed onto his leather shoes. The servant immediately knelt down and wiped it clean with a silk scarf. Along with the sound of glass breaking, Jitao's voice rang out again. 10 billion. These three simple words shocked the whole audience like thunder. The auction was instantly in an uproar, with someone exclaiming, Master Gio is really rich. He spent 10 billion to buy a woman. Is he paying off his debts or taking revenge? Lin Zixuan clenched his fists, burning with anger, but the Lin family's money was not in his hands. At this moment, he could only watch the victory being taken away and grit his teeth to swallow all his resentment. The auctioneer brought down the hammer. 10 billion sold. There was a lot of discussion in the hall, and I was quickly taken away, with endless darkness still before my eyes. In the fuzzy conversation, I vaguely heard a few words. Tingyu Villa. I had heard that place was Ji Tao's private territory. My body was cleaned, and I was put on a white wedding dress. In front of the mirror, the makeup artist was silent for a long time and said softly, Ms. Liu is naturally beautiful. She doesn't need makeup. Any modification is superfluous. Finally, the black cloth that had covered me all night was taken off. I looked at myself in the mirror. My face was still that stunningly beautiful face, as perfect as if it was carved. In the past, this face brought me countless glory, but now, it has become a cage that imprisons me. In those years, I thought the world would revolve around me. 8 years ago, I never took Jitao, poor boy, seriously. At that time, he was just a young boy, an illegitimate child laughed at by everyone. The day he confessed his love, I sneered and pushed him away. You are a bastard. How dare you like me? There are many people who like me who are richer than you. Get out of my way. He laughed in anger. Besides being pretty, what else do you have? I must be blind to like you. He was the first person who dared to confront me. I was so angry that I raised my hand and slapped him. You bastard, you dare to yell at me? At that time, his eyes were full of shame and resentment, but now, he is the 9 lords who can call the wind and rain in Beijing. I looked at myself in the mirror, feeling mixed emotions. After the makeup artist left, I was blindfolded again and taken into a room. A deep voice said coldly in my ear, Ms. Liu, tonight is your wedding night. Master Gio will be here soon. When I heard the words wedding night, I just felt ridiculous. Putting on a wedding dress is called getting married? What a joke. The room was pitch black, and I sat alone, so quiet that only the sound of my breathing could be heard. After a while, the door was pushed open, and footsteps slowly approached. I knew he was coming. The black cloth on my face was torn off, and the dazzling light made it impossible for me to open my eyes. I subconsciously raised my hand to block it. When my vision gradually became clear, I saw Ji Tao standing in front of me, and his shadow enveloped me. He reached out his hand, and his slender fingers coldly grasped my chin and lifted my face up. I looked at him. My eyes were dead, and his eyes were full of coldness. Suddenly, a loud slap landed on my face, and my head was slapped to one side. The burning pain came instantly, but I gritted my teeth and didn't make a sound. I know that this slap was his revenge for what I did many years ago. Everyone in Beijing knows that Ji Tao is respectful to his mother, but I am guilty of an unforgivable crime. He sneered and held my shoulders, pressing me down on the bed without mercy. The wedding dress was torn to pieces. The lace fabric was scattered all over the floor, and the cold air from the air conditioner made me shiver. No! I spoke instinctively, my voice so weak that I couldn't even hear it clearly. But he lowered his head and sneered. No! His tone was full of sarcasm. I spent 10 billion to buy a vase, of course I have to put flowers in it. Then he took me without any scruples. Humiliation and indifference enveloped me like a nightmare. He dragged me in front of the mirror and forced me to look at myself. The humiliation made me dare not raise my head. When it was almost dawn, I was exhausted and fell asleep. When I woke up, I was the only one left in the room. The glaring red on the white bed sheet dazzled my eyes, and I suddenly felt cold all over. When I woke up at noon, my whole body felt like it had been crushed and was in severe pain. Thinking of everything that happened last night, my face turned red and white. The servant knocked on the door and came in. Miss Liu, the bath water is ready. Please take a bath. I went into the bathroom and soaked in the hot water, which relieved the pain in my body a little. But I felt like a huge rock was pressing down on my heart, so heavy that I couldn't breathe. Ji Tao seemed to have lost his patience and waited downstairs for more than an hour before finally coming upstairs. He kicked open the bathroom door while I was still soaking in the cold water, my whole body frozen. He pulled me out of the water. His hands were strong. His eyes were cold as a knife. "Want to die?" His voice was low and full of anger. "I'm hungry and waiting for you to eat. But you're here to die?" I answered in a hoarse voice. "No, I was just too tired and fell asleep." He stared at me for a while, suddenly reached out and picked me up, wrapping my body with a bath towel. In the following days, he came every night, and I had no choice but to endure it. When he was away, I was imprisoned in the villa, watched 24 hours a day, and had no freedom. At first I tried to resist, but soon realized that it was futile. The only things that could help me pass the time were books, painting, and practicing calligraphy. Days passed by like flowing water, and I gradually became numb, a walking corpse without a soul. But I always knew in my heart that if I wanted to escape, I had to start with him. That night, I changed into a floral dress, combed my hair, and waited for him on the sofa. When he came back and saw me, a flash of surprise flashed in his eyes, and he quickly walked over to sit next to me. He put his arm around my shoulders and pressed my head against his shoulders. I was so stiff that I dared not move. "I was bored when you were not around," I said softly, my voice so gentle that it even made me feel strange. This was the first time in half a month that I took the initiative to talk to him. There was a hint of excitement in his eyes. "Really? Then I'll spend more time with you in the future, okay?" I felt sick inside, but I had a sweet smile on my face. "I want to play with my phone, can I?" He refused coldly. "No." "Then take me out for a walk?" I asked tentatively, but got the same answer. He looked down at me with a half smile in his eyes. "Don't bother me with that expression." After saying that, he pushed me onto the sofa and bent down to kiss my neck. "I'm having my period." I gritted my teeth and said. He suddenly stopped moving and bent down to check before believing it. He let me go, but took me back to the room and was still gentle with me for a long time. I was like a broken doll, without any response, and only cried silently in my bed after he finally left. The next day, he brought me a tablet and some snacks, saying it was to help me relieve my boredom. But the tablet couldn't connect to the internet or make calls, so his good intentions felt more like an insult. "I'll have plenty of time to spend with you after this busy period." He stroked my hair, his voice so gentle that it made me sick. "You're tormenting me from morning till night?" I finally couldn't help it and stared at him with cold eyes. He smiled and leaned down to my ear. "Of course, I have plenty of energy." His breath sprayed on my earlobe, and my body couldn't help but tremble. Every minute and every second, I was secretly planning, waiting for an opportunity to escape. But in this deep cage, light seemed out of reach. His hot breath sprayed on my earlobe, and the oppressive feeling made me tremble involuntarily. Jitao seemed to enjoy this scene, and when he saw my frightened look, he smiled. The next second, he grabbed my chin and kissed me fiercely. I was extremely disgusted, but I didn't dare to avoid it. I was like an empty shell without a soul, with empty eyes and no focus. Just as he continued, my stomach suddenly felt a sharp cramp, and I couldn't help but frown in pain. He stopped, looked down at me, touched my stomach with his right hand, and said in a slightly cold tone, "Does it hurt?" Yes, I always feel severe pain when I have my period, and I have been used to the pain that goes deep into my bones since I was a child. But this time the pain came unexpectedly, and I tried hard to endure it, but I still couldn't completely hide it. I didn't want to talk. I just hung my head, like a broken puppet, motionless. He stared at me for a moment, suddenly picked me up and put me on his lap. The warm, big hands covered my lower abdomen, gently massaging it through the clothes. I didn't want to admit it, but his hands were really warm, and when he gently rubbed my lower abdomen, the pain was relieved a lot. His embrace was also warm, and although I was cold all over, I felt better after being wrapped in his blanket. I leaned on his shoulder and whispered, "How is my mother?" I wanted to ask this question every day these days, but I was afraid to hear the answer that I would be most unwilling to accept. "Alive." He uttered these two words briefly and harshly, but it was enough to ignite hope in my heart. Finally, there was a hint of life on my dead face, like a white flower blooming in the cold winter. Time flies. It is the second year since I lost my freedom. It has just rained, and the air is filled with a damp smell. I take advantage of the fact that no one is watching me and run down the mountain road. Tingyu Villa is built on the mountain, and the villa I live in is halfway up the mountain. I kept looking back while running to make sure no one was catching up with me. This time, I learned from my last failure and finally ran out of the cage. For 2 years, he took care of me in every possible way, but but all I got in return was a golden cage. No matter how gorgeous the cage was, it could not hide the fact that I had no freedom and no soul. I ran until I was exhausted. My legs felt like they were filled with lead. My chest was heaving violently, but I didn't dare to stop for even a second. I told myself that I had to keep running, running to the ends of the earth, running to a place where he couldn't find me. Suddenly, my foot slipped and I fell to the ground, with severe pain in my knees and wrists. I didn't have time to check the wound, so I gritted my teeth and got up, dragging my injured leg, and continued to walk forward. I heard the buzzing sound of drones in the sky, and my heart sank. I looked up and saw dozens of drones flying densely in the sky, searching for me. Escape! Failed again. The loudspeaker in the drone sounded, and a strange man's voice came. Ms. Liu, you are surrounded. Please stop. We will come to pick you up. I thought he was out on business and didn't know about this for the time being. Just as I was about to breathe a sigh of relief, I heard a car horn in front of me. The dazzling headlights shone straight at me, and a Rolls-Royce Phantom stopped steadily in front of me. He got out of the car. His straight suit and cold breath made me shudder. He walked, closer step by step, and every step he took seemed to be stepping on my heart, so heavy that it made me breathless. He stood in front of me, looking down at me like a trapped animal. His eyes fell on my injured wrists and knees, and the blood flowing down my legs was shocking. The original anger seemed to be suppressed. He said nothing, just picked me up and walked towards the car. His embrace was still so warm, but at this moment I just felt suffocated. In the car, Ji-Tao opened the medical kit and began to treat my wound. He wiped my wrist with a cotton swab dipped in iodine. I gasped in pain, but he said coldly, "You dare to run when you know it hurts?" I bit my lip tightly, trying to hold back my screams, but when he cleaned the wound on my knee, I couldn't help but scream out in pain. He raised the corners of his mouth and seemed to have a bit of evil taste. "Baby, now is not the time to scream." My face flushed, and I raised my hand to hit him, but he caught it easily. He smiled and said, "Don't move, or you'll hurt more." I snorted angrily and cursed in a low voice. "Then be gentle." He finally slowed down his movements, carefully cleaned the wound, and bandaged it with gauze. After the wound was treated, the car returned to the villa. He carried me into the room and ordered everyone to leave. My heart began to panic, because I knew that the next punishment would keep me bedridden for several days. Ji-Tao, it hurts. I deliberately acted like a spoiled child, trying to soften him, but it was obviously useless. He pinched my chin. His tone was cold and without a trace of pity. "Don't think that I will let you go just because you are injured." He lowered his head and approached me, his voice cold. "This time, I will make you remember forever that you should not run away." I was so scared that I was shaking all over. My heart was beating wildly, but the next second I suddenly felt nauseous and started to retch. He frowned and immediately let me go. "What's wrong? Are you feeling unwell?" I didn't answer. In fact, I had been retching several times in the past few days. I suspected that I was pregnant, but I didn't dare to confirm it or even tell him. He suddenly remembered that I hadn't had my period for a long time. I could explain the irregular menstruation in the past, but this time, something was wrong. He suppressed his anger, lowered his head, and tidied my clothes. "I'll go call the doctor for a checkup." I lowered my head in disappointment. I thought I could take this opportunity to go to the hospital, but in the end I had to ask the doctor to come to my house again. The doctor's examination results came out quickly, and he said respectfully, "Congratulations, Master Jiao, Miss Liu is pregnant." I was stunned, but the doctor continued, "She has a weak constitution and must restrain herself and rest for 3 months." After hearing this, he showed a rare joy on his face and seemed very satisfied with the result. After the doctor left, I sat down on the bedside with my head down, feeling extremely heavy. He saw my displeasure and asked coldly, "Don't you want to give birth?" I raised my head and answered without hesitation, "Of course. I would rather die than give birth to this child." After hearing me say, "I don't want to have children," Ji-Tao instantly got angry, grabbed my neck, and asked angrily, "Am I not good to you?" His hands were very strong, but he never really pinched me. He was extremely angry, but he still couldn't bear to hurt me. "Strangle me, strangle me." I looked up and glared at him coldly, feeling hopeless. He was silent for a while, but finally let go of my hand and hugged me tightly. His kisses fell on my body like a raging fire from head to toe, as if he was venting his desire and lusting after me, as if he wanted to carve me into his bones and blood. Finally, he gently covered me with the quilt and whispered, "Have a good rest." When I woke up, it was already daybreak. The servant told me that he had gone back to G's house to deal with something. After dinner, I changed into my swimsuit and walked towards the swimming pool. The servant beside me hurriedly stopped me. "Miss Liu, you are pregnant. You can't touch cold water. If something goes wrong, Master Gio will blame us." The servant looked embarrassed. "Don't worry about me." I pushed her away and jumped directly into the cold pool, splashing a lot of water. The water was freezing cold, my body was shaking slightly in the water, and the wound was in great pain, but I endured it. If this child could not be born, then all the problems would disappear. I closed my eyes, thinking that the child would leave this world because he would not be happy anyway. Not long after, I heard hurried footsteps, and someone pulled me out of the water. It was him. His aura instantly enveloped me. His cold gaze pierced me so that I couldn't raise my head, and my body trembled even more violently because of the cold. He wrapped me tightly in a blanket, said nothing, and walked quickly into the room with me in his arms. He carefully dried my body, re-bandaged the wound, and then held me in his arms and lay in bed to keep me warm. I thought he would be furious, but he said nothing. "Gee, thee thou." I called him softly and tentatively, and he snorted coldly. "Don't call me." His silence frightened me, yet also made me feel relieved. But I could sense that his sadness was real. Even the innocence of a child could not move me. The first time, I failed. The second and third times, no matter what I did, he was able to stop me, but he became more silent each time. The fourth time, I chose to go on a hunger strike, and I persisted for 2 days. My already frail body had reached its limit. I lay on the bed, dying, and could die at any time. He knelt beside the bed with a bowl of rice in his hand and coaxed me in a low voice. "Be good. Eat a bite. As long as you are willing to eat, anything is fine." Since I started the hunger strike, he has not taken a single drop of water. His voice is no longer cold and hard, but more tired and hoarse. I turned my head and looked at his pale face, without a trace of hesitation in my heart. "I don't want this child." My voice was soft but firm. "Giving birth to this child will only bring pain to both me and him." He slammed the bowl onto the bedside table. The sound was as dull as if it was hitting my heart. He pinched my face and asked angrily, "You hate me so much that you even spared innocent children?" "Yes." I looked at him, not flinching, and the anger in his eyes almost took my breath away. After a long time, he suddenly let go of my hand, sat on the ground, and said in a voice so low that it was almost inaudible, "Give birth to the baby, and I will let you go." I was stunned, my eyes widened, and I couldn't believe my ears. "You said you were going to let me go?" I asked hoarsely, making sure I heard correctly. "Yes." He said it with difficulty, but every word was like a key that unlocked my shackles. From that day on, I started to eat. Although my stomach hurt, I didn't dare to eat too much at once, so I could only drink some rice soup in small sips to replenish my energy. He was wolfing down the food beside him, almost finishing all the food on the table. I stared blankly at him, and the servant whispered, "Miss Liu, Master Gio hasn't eaten for a few days." My heart skipped a beat, and I couldn't help asking, why? He didn't hear clearly and looked up at me. But I stopped talking and just lowered my eyes to wait for the doctor to check. The doctor arrived soon and told me, "The baby is healthy, he just needs additional nutrition. Don't do it again." Listening to his words, I looked down at my flat belly, where a little life was growing. "Maybe it's God's will," I whispered, my hand unconsciously touching my lower abdomen. After the doctor left, I closed my eyes and silently felt the existence of this life. Life suddenly became more hopeful. I looked forward to the birth of my child, to leaving this cage, and to reuniting with my mother. But morning sickness tortured me again and again, and I could hardly eat anything. He took good care of me, cooked for me personally, and tried to make every dish light to suit my taste. Although my morning sickness was not completely relieved, his efforts touched me. As time went by, morning sickness gradually subsided. My face gained some flesh, and even some baby fat. Later, the doctor told me that it was twins. Chapter 9. Mother Dies. Ji Tao carefully takes care of my daily life almost every day. In the past 2 years, he moved his work home just to spend more time with me, and even tried to reduce the company's affairs as much as possible. After getting pregnant, he became more cautious than before and even tried to restrain himself. It was torture for him, but for me, it was a kind of expectation. With anticipation, the days seemed to pass much faster, and my belly grew bigger day by day. In the blink of an eye, It was the summer of the following year, and the due date was July 28th, which was still 40 days away. He made an appointment with the world's top obstetrician and gynecologist early on, and even prepared the most advanced technical equipment. He said, "I don't have to suffer too much, but my heart seems to be covered with a thick haze." At night, the baby moved violently, and I couldn't sleep well. In a daze, he came again. His hot lips kissed my shoulders and back. Like every night, he always kissed my whole body reluctantly. "It's fine if you don't want to sleep, but why are you disturbing me?" I frowned, my tone full of impatience. He hugged me from behind, his big hands on my belly, and said nothing. After a while, the baby moved a little, and he chuckled and said, "It's obviously the baby that kept you awake. Why are you blaming me? Then wasn't I conceived because of you?" I turned my head and replied coldly, "Okay, blame me." He smiled helplessly and kissed my face. "Go to sleep." I listened to his breathing and finally fell asleep after a long time. When I woke up, he was not beside me, and I felt relieved. After I got pregnant, I became more and more sleepy, and I would sleep until 10 o'clock every day. Normally, I would see his handsome face when I opened my eyes, but not today. I got up quietly without disturbing the servants and ate something simple. Afterwards, I went to the garden to relax. The garden was full of precious flowers and plants, carefully cared for by a professional, and full of vitality. Deep in the flowers, there is a white swing chair. I sat on it, opened a book, and let the breeze blow my face. Suddenly, I heard the sound of two servants talking in low voices not far away. "Master Joe went out early this morning and didn't accompany Miss Lou." "Where did he go?" "Don't you know? Today is the anniversary of Miss Lou's mother's death. Master Joe went to pay respects early in the morning." "What?" another person exclaimed in a low voice. "Why didn't Miss Lou go with us?" "Because Miss Lou didn't know her mother had passed away. Master Joe had been hiding it from her." The book in my hand trembled, and my heartbeat inexplicably accelerated, but my ears continued to catch their words. "Oh, Master Joe is too deeply in love. But if Miss Lou knew the truth, she would be very sad, right? She is more than just sad to death. With Miss Lou's temper, I'm afraid she will kill Master Joe." I heard that Miss Lou's mother died because Master Joe didn't pay the medical bills and the hospital ran out of medicine. Plop! The book in my hand fell to the ground. I stared blankly ahead, my head buzzing. The two servants turned around and saw me, and they looked flustered as if they had made a big mistake. Miss Lou," they whispered, as if they wanted to explain but couldn't. I stumbled over and almost shouted, "Is what you said true?" "No, no." A servant waved his hands hastily, his face pale. "I just heard it from others. It's not true." "Yes, Jio-yi is so good to you. How could he not treat your mother? We are talking nonsense." Chapter 10. Stop crying, okay? Their explanations were weak and totally unconvincing. I just felt that they were just trying to excuse themselves and said so on purpose. But I knew in my heart that maybe they were not lying to me. For so long, I had doubts. Every time I asked Jitao, he always told me confidently, alive. I thought he was so proud that he would not lie, but I didn't expect that I would be deceived by him in the end. The only hope I had in my heart collapsed in an instant. I was overwhelmed by the overwhelming grief and felt like I was being swallowed up. Tears kept flowing, and I screamed hysterically. "He lied to me! He lied to me!" The two servants tried to comfort me helplessly, but I could not hear anything they said. The summer sun was blazing, but I just felt cold all over. My limbs were stiff, and my mind was blank. I kept repeating to myself, "Take me to find him. Take me there." As I spoke, I staggered forward a few steps, but suddenly everything went dark in front of my eyes, and my body fell backwards uncontrollably. When I woke up, the first thing I saw was that devil-like man, Ji Tao. He was sitting beside the bed, looking at me quietly. My emotions exploded at once. I sat up abruptly, grabbed his collar, and asked, "Why didn't you save my mother? Why didn't you pay for her medical expenses? Why did you lie to me?" For him, the money for medical treatment was not needed at all. He clearly killed my mother on purpose. I grabbed his collar with all my strength, venting the pent-up anger in my heart. His face remained calm. He just held my wrist and whispered, "Let go." "I won't let go. You must give me an explanation." My voice was hoarse, almost shouting. He was silent for a moment, then sighed and softened his tone. "You are not good for the baby." "What does the baby have to do with me?" I glared at him and said through gritted teeth, "You killed my mother, and I don't want this child anymore." I emotionally broke free from his hand and prepared to get out of bed and leave, but he grabbed my wrist and forcibly pulled me back in. "The floor is cold. Put on your shoes." His tone was low, but it was unacceptable. "I won't wear them." I stared at him stubbornly, my heart full of disgust and resentment towards him. He didn't say anything more, just pressed my shoulders and made me sit on the edge of the bed, then squatted down and put on my shoes himself. His hands were warm and strong, and when he held my ankle, I couldn't help but shiver slightly. I hated his touch so much that I subconsciously raised my foot and kicked him hard. "Don't touch me." This kick was very powerful, and he was caught off guard and was kicked directly to the ground. His face suddenly darkened, and he stood up, pinched my chin, and said in a low and cold voice, "Don't refuse a toast and drink a penalty. If you make me angry, you'll never be able to leave this villa in your life. You won't even be able to leave the bedroom." His eyes made my heart sink. I knew that if he said it, he would definitely do it. I lowered my head, thinking about how I wasn't there when my mother died, and how she died alone. In the past 2 years, I haven't even visited her grave. When I think about this, I feel guilty and remorseful, which almost overwhelms me. Tears fell one by one, dripping onto the back of my hand. My eyes were red and burning, and I must have looked very embarrassed. But the more embarrassed I looked, the more distressed he felt. Jitao raised his hands and held my face, gently wiping away my tears with his fingertips, and his voice was so soft that it didn't sound like his. "Stop crying, okay?" But I couldn't stop, and tears kept pouring out drop by drop. With my head lowered, I choked and said, "I want to go to worship my mother." This sentence stunned him slightly, but he did not answer me immediately. Chapter 11, If You Stay By My Side. He hesitated. Seeing his reluctance, I became even more angry and could not help but yell, "You hesitate even on this? Is it too much to go and pay respect to my mother?" He was speechless after being yelled at by me, and finally whispered, "I'll have someone prepare the car now. I'll just wait 10 minutes. 5 minutes will be enough." He lowered his head and quickly took out his cell phone to tell someone to make arrangements. The journey from Tingyu Villa to the cemetery was long, at least an hour. After the car started, I leaned against the window, staring out with empty eyes, not wanting to say a word. He was afraid that I would be bored, so he prepared snacks, drinks, tablets, and TV in the car. But I didn't want to touch anything. I felt like a huge stone was pressing on my heart, and I couldn't breathe. The sky was gloomy, with large dark clouds hanging low, as if they were going to swallow up the entire sky. How I wished I were a bird, so I could break through the shadow that enveloped me and fly freely. His eyes fell on me, as if he could see through my thoughts. He reached out and touched my head, whispering, "If you didn't want to escape, I wouldn't have sent so many people to watch you." I frowned and pushed his hand away in disgust, not allowing him to touch me again. He snorted and leaned back in his chair, no longer looking at me or speaking. Arriving at the cemetery, I began to get nervous. It was very quiet here, with tombstones neatly arranged and large gaps between them, so that a car could drive right in. Before the car stopped, I had already seen my mother's tombstone and wanted to open the door and get out. He hurriedly grabbed my arm, frowned, and said, "It's dangerous." "I want to talk to my mother alone. Can I?" I turned around and asked him, pleading in my tone. He didn't answer immediately, obviously not wanting to agree, afraid that I would run away. I sighed and said calmly, "How can I possibly outrun your bodyguards with such a big belly? Let them watch from a distance. If I show any abnormality, arrest me immediately. Isn't that enough?" He was silent for a few seconds and finally softened his heart and whispered, "Go, I'll wait for you in the car." Hearing this, I breathed a sigh of relief and slowly got out of the car. Standing in front of my mother's tombstone, my vision was already blurred by tears. The photo of my mother on the tombstone was when she was young. She was so beautiful at that time, and her smile was so gentle. My mother used to be an actress and starred in many popular TV series, which were well known all over the country. But she is a traditional woman. After marriage, she quit the entertainment industry and devoted all her time to her family. She accompanied me throughout my childhood. She was my world and all I relied on. Now, she lies quietly under this cold stone tablet, and I will never see her again. I tried to kneel down, but my belly was too big and my body was too heavy, so I couldn't kneel down. Holding onto the tombstone, I gritted my teeth, exerted force little by little, and finally knelt on the hard ground. The pain in my knees made me tremble slightly, but what did it matter? I looked at my mother's photo, tears welled up in my eyes, and I threw myself on the tombstone and hugged it tightly. Mom, I miss you so much, Mom. My voice was choked with sobs and was almost inaudible, and tears streamed down my cheeks and fell onto the cold stone tablet. My face, which was pressed against the stone tablet, was numb, but the pain in my heart kept coming, making it hard for me to breathe. I'm sorry, Mom. I'm sorry. Chapter 12. Keep the baby. Thunder roared, dense and dull, and the strong wind blew up the fallen leaves on the ground. Some flew high, and some flew close to the ground. The sky became increasingly gloomy, and the light dimmed, as if it was swallowed by the night. The raindrops finally fell, hitting the ground with a patter, and my skirt was lifted by the wind, and the moisture penetrated my skin. At this time, he got out of the car, holding a large black umbrella, and slowly walked to my side. It's time to go home. His voice was low, but it seemed to penetrate the sound of rain and go straight into my ears. I'm not going home. I shook my head and hugged the tombstone tightly, as if I was hugging my mother through the yin and yang. It's not good for the baby to get wet in the rain. I'll bring you here when the weather clears up. He squatted down and tried to pull on my arm. Baby, baby. All you think about is baby. I shook his hand off uncontrollably and screamed. Giving birth to a baby is so disgusting. Do you know? His movements stopped, and his expression froze. He probably thought that after a few months of pregnancy, I would have some feelings for this child, but he was wrong. I gritted my teeth and stared at him, my eyes full of resentment. Even if the baby is born, I won't like it. He pursed his lips, and after a few seconds of silence, he grabbed my arm again, and his voice became cold and hard. Come back with me. His eyes were like a knife, cutting through my heart. If you don't listen, forget about coming to worship again. I was stunned by this sentence, but the anger in my heart rushed out like a flood. Then I might as well die. I yelled, struggling to get away from him. But he didn't let go, so I bit his arm hard. I used all my strength, wishing I could crush his bones. His blood poured into my mouth. The rusty smell made me sick. But he just groaned, didn't withdraw his hand, and let me vent my anger. When I was too tired to let go, his arm was already covered with hideous teeth marks and blood. I gasped, stared at him, and trembled as I shouted out the emotions I had suppressed for a long time. I hate you. I hate you. I stepped back, tears mixed with rainwater flowing nonstop, but my foot slipped and I fell backwards. At that moment, I heard everyone around me screaming and rushing towards me, but they were all one step too late. When I fell heavily to the ground, I felt a tearing pain in my abdomen, and I looked at my stomach in horror. The rain soaked my skirt, and the bright red blood quickly spread, staining it shockingly. Baby, my baby! My heart felt like it was cut by a knife, and my eyesight was blurred by tears. I was terrified, and only then did I realize that I loved this baby, but it was too late. Ji-Tao picked me up, his eyes widened in shock, and he yelled, Go to the hospital! Quick, go to the hospital! I leaned in his arms, almost unable to breathe in the pain, and felt that I was quickly losing consciousness. The pain in my abdomen became more and more severe, and I suddenly had a premonition that I might not make it through this. I thought I should go find my mother and finally be reunited with her. I raised my hand with great effort and placed it gently on the back of his hand. My voice was so weak that it was almost inaudible. Ji-Tao, you must save the baby. You must. This was the first time in 2 years that I took the initiative to touch him. But how I hoped that this moment would never happen. He held my hand tightly with his backhand, his voice trembling in a way that was unlike him. I don't want a baby anymore. I just want you to be fine. No, I must have a baby. I murmured, my vision starting to blur and my body becoming lighter and lighter. The last bit of strength I had was gone. My eyes went dark. My hands fell limply, and I was completely plunged into darkness. I heard him calling my name, his voice full of fear and despair. Lu Feifei. Don't sleep. Do you hear me? Open your eyes and look at me. But my body could no longer respond. Even my breathing became so light that it was almost non-existent. His voice gradually faded away from my ears, and I only remember his last roar. Drive faster. Faster. Chapter 13, Where is my baby? I had a very long dream. In the dream, the garden of the Lu family villa was full of spring, and the flowers in the garden were blooming particularly brilliantly and colorfully, attracting flocks of butterflies. I was running in the garden chasing butterflies while my mother was sitting on the swing, swinging gently and reminding me with a smile, Run slowly, don't fall. My father was on the open-air balcony on the second floor, sipping tea slowly and looking at us in the garden, his eyes full of happy smiles. In this beautiful scene, a pair of huge hands suddenly stretched out and tore all the beautiful scenery into pieces. I was awakened by the shock, and I broke out in a cold sweat. My clothes were soaked, and my face was as pale as a piece of paper. "Ms. Liu, are you awake? Are you feeling unwell?" The doctor guarding the bed came over with a look of concern on his face. He was Zhou Xinji, the best obstetrician and gynecologist in Beijing. I turned my head and said in a hoarse voice, "I'm fine, Dr. Zhou. Where's the baby?" I looked around, but didn't see the baby, not even any baby supplies. His expression suddenly flickered, and he spoke incoherently. "Ms. Liu, don't worry about this for now. Just have a good rest." I was stunned, and my heart skipped a beat. "What do you mean? Can I know about the baby's condition?" I stared at him, my voice trembling. "Tell me, where's the baby? I want to see him." Dr. Zhou stammered. "Ms. Liu, we really tried our best, but I'm sorry the child couldn't be saved." His words struck me like a bolt of lightning. My head was buzzing and tears welled up in my eyes. I subconsciously touched my belly and found that it was bulging. Was it fat accumulated during pregnancy? But I had been waiting for so long, but the baby suddenly died. I prepared so many small clothes, but now they are all useless. Why? Medical science is so advanced now. Why can't you even save a baby? Why do you do this to me? I lost control of my emotions and cried incoherently. Dr. Zhou quickly comforted me. "Ms. Liu, you are still young. Once you recover, you will have children in the future." My eyes were red and my voice was trembling. "Where is Ji Tao? I want to see him. He usually wants to stick with me 24 hours a day, but now such a big thing has happened, and he is nowhere to be seen." Dr. Zhou hesitated for a moment and said in a low voice, "Mr. Zhou cannot see you for the time being, so you should focus on taking care of your health." I didn't say anything else, just sat on the bed in a daze. I could feel that my face was pale and bloodless, and I was like a pool of stagnant water, lifeless. Dr. Zhou looked at my silent and broken face, sighed, and asked in a low voice, "Ms. Liu, what would you like to eat? I'll ask someone to buy it." His voice startled me awake. I came back to my senses and keenly grasped the message in his words. "You mean I'm in the hospital now?" Dr. Zhou nodded. "Yes, your body has not recovered yet. You need to rest for a while and cannot be discharged for the time being." My eyes lit up. This was the first time in 2 years that I had left that cage, Tingyu Villa. I was in the hospital, there were not many bodyguards, and Ji Tao was not there either. Was this a chance to escape? I tried to calm myself down and said, "I'm very hungry, just buy something to eat." Dr. Zhou nodded and said, "Okay, I'll ask someone to buy it for me right away." He opened the door of the ward, and I peeked in. There was only one bodyguard outside the door. I was a little confused. Why did Ji Tao only arrange one bodyguard? What happened to him? As Dr. Zhou walked away, I rolled my eyes and said quickly, "Dr. Zhou, I want to eat some fruit. Can you buy some for me?" He hesitated for a moment, then nodded and agreed. "Okay, I'll go buy it right away. Please wait." Chapter 14, CEO Figure. For years later, at Beijing International Airport, I stood in the crowd, wearing a light blue modified cheongsam, the hem of which reached my calves, revealing my long legs. Was carrying a pearl-embroidered bag and had her jet black hair tied into a bun, which gave her a hint of the charm of the Jiangnan water village. Although I was wearing a mask that covered my face, my exposed skin seemed to glow, attracting a lot of attention. I looked down at my phone, occasionally looking up, waiting for someone. Suddenly, someone pulled my clothes, and I looked down and saw a little boy in a black suit. He looked no more than 3 or 4 years old, with a chubby face and big black eyes as round as black grapes. He raised his head and said in a baby voice, "Annie, can you help me?" I was stunned for a moment, suspecting that he was being cute, but he looked innocent and said, "Annie, my dad and I got separated." Listening to his babyish words, I squatted down, took off my sunglasses, and said with a smile, "Who are you calling Andy?" When he saw my face, his eyes widened instantly, as if he was frightened, and he couldn't speak for a long time. I've seen this kind of reaction too many times. After all, the title of the most beautiful woman in Beijing has long been spread. After coming to his senses, he immediately changed the topic. "Sister, can you help me find my dad?" As he spoke, he had already stretched out his arms, looking like he was asking for a hug, which was so cute that it made people's hearts melt. I poked his soft face with my hand and asked with a smile, "What's your name? Where are your family members? Why are you here alone?" My name is Dushabeo. My father is a busy man and doesn't care about me, so I got separated from him. When I heard the name, I was stunned. When I was pregnant, I loved eating red bean paste buns and ate them almost every day. If my other child hadn't died, he would have been about the same age as this child. My heart softened, and I picked up the red bean paste bun. Okay, sister will carry you to find daddy. Thank you, beautiful sister, he said in a baby voice, as sweet as honey. I was amused. You were so young, but you were so sweet talker. Who taught you that? No one taught me. I'm just speaking from my heart. He answered seriously, with pride on his face. After searching for a while with the red bean paste bun in hand, we met a bodyguard in black. He ran over breathlessly, his face full of anxiety. Finally found it. I was scared to death. Dushabeo happily responded to him. I'm looking for you too. I put Dushabeo down and couldn't help but remind him. There are so many people at the airport. Don't let your child get lost next time. The bodyguard thanked me repeatedly. It was my negligence. Thank you, Mississippi. But Dushabeo took out a small Genius phone watch and said to me, Sister, can I save your phone number? I was stunned for a moment, and Dushabeo proudly added, My father is very rich. Knowing that you helped me, he will definitely give you a lot of money. I couldn't help laughing and touched his head. No need. Sister is not short of money. Seeing that I refused, he puffed up his chubby cheeks, and tears of grievance instantly appeared in his eyes. My heart softened immediately. Don't cry, don't cry. I'll give it to you right away. After saving his phone number, I smiled and said to him, Okay, go find your dad. He waved his little hand and ran away. His innocent look made me laugh again. At this time, Lin Zishuan's voice came from behind me. Fei Fei, why are you here? Didn't I tell you to wait for me here? I turned around and saw him walking towards me quickly, pushing 2 suitcases. I explained, a child was lost just now. I felt sorry for him, so I held him and looked for him for a while. Have you picked up the luggage? Where? Lin Zishuan looked around, but didn't see any trace of the child. I looked back and saw that the bean paste bun had disappeared without a trace. I couldn't help but laugh. It ran pretty fast. Chapter 15, She Returns. Lin Zishuan pushed the suitcase and walked side by side with me. I briefly mentioned what happened just now, and he frowned and asked in confusion. Since there is a phone watch, why not call his father directly? I was stunned for a moment before I reacted, and then I said with a smile, How can a child have such meticulous thoughts? Maybe he was too panicked. You were just too kind. Lin Zishuan looked at me sideways with a gentle smile on his lips. I have already arranged accommodation, just like when we were abroad, door to door, so it will be convenient for me to take care of you. I looked up at him, feeling a little touched. Thank you, Zishuan. I've been abroad for a few years, thanks to your care. I whispered, but now that we're back home, you should have your own life and don't have to revolve around me anymore. Lin Zishuan's face froze and he shook his head hurriedly. Fei Fei, I'm willing to do this for you. You don't have to feel any psychological burden, and don't chase me away, okay? I moved my lips and was about to say something when he suddenly interrupted me. By the way, I have already made an appointment with the person who claimed to have seen your father. Let's have dinner together tonight. When I heard the word father, I was stunned for a moment, swallowed all the words, and only said, Thank you. On the other side of the airport, Dushabeo trotted to find Jitao, who was answering the phone, and stood behind him. Jitao stood in front of the French window, his eyes deep, looking at the scenery in the distance. Jilon stood beside him and reported in a low voice. Master Jiao, I just got the news that Lu Feifei has returned to China and is on today's flight. Jitao frowned slightly, but his expression did not change much. Although he seemed calm on the surface, there were undercurrents. Jilon didn't dare to say anything. At this time, Dushabeo tugged at Jitao's sleeve and said in a baby voice, Dad, let's go home. Jitao lowered his eyes and looked at Dushabeo's chubby little hand, narrowing his eyes with a hint of danger. Dushabeo seemed to sense it and immediately retracted his hand behind his back and stood straight. Look, you're usually too harsh on Dushabeo, Jilon sighed. A single look can scare him like this. He grabbed Dushabeo's little hand. Come on, grab Uncle's sleeve, grab whatever you want. Jitao ignored Jilon, looked down at Dushabeo, and asked in a deep voice, Where did you go just now? Dushabeo suddenly remembered what happened just now, and said with shining eyes, I met a very beautiful sister, like a fairy. Hearing this, Jitao's heart suddenly trembled, and he turned his head to look at the crowd. His sharp eyes swept through the crowded crowd, trying to find that familiar figure. But looking around, where is her shadow in the vast sea of people? Jilon glanced at him, patted his shoulder, and sighed, as if she understood everything. Ji Tao snorted coldly. Jilon, go check all the information about her time abroad in the past 4 years. The more detailed, the better. Okay, no problem. Jilon nodded and left immediately. In the magnificent Sofitel Hotel, Lin Zixuan and I entered the elevator under the guidance of the waiter. I wore a simple white t-shirt, blue jeans, and a pair of high-heeled sandals, which made me look smart and sophisticated. Lin Zixuan was wearing a suit, with a worried look on his jade-like face, and his eyes were gentle when he looked at me. Fei Fei, that man is called Li Xinjue. He used to be a gangster, but later he joined Yihong. I suspect he has ulterior motives. I nodded. I understand. Lin Zixuan's tone became more serious. If something goes wrong later, we will leave immediately. When we arrived at the door of the box, we were stopped by 2 bodyguards. One of them said coldly, "Sorry, Mr. Lin. Only Miss Liu can go in. Please stay." Chapter 16, The leather shoes are a little dirty. Why? Lin Zixuan frowned and looked at the bodyguard in front of him with vigilance. "Mr. Lin, you can't come in. Please cooperate, otherwise we will not be polite." The bodyguard's attitude was unquestionable. He looked at me worriedly and whispered, "Fei Fei, why don't we go back first? Something is wrong here." I turned around and gave him a firm look. "I'm fine. I have come this far. For my father. I cannot retreat, nor will I look back." "Fei Fei." He hesitated to speak, but I did not listen and directly opened the door of the box. The box was large and luxurious. What caught my eye was a square table where 4 men were playing cards. These men were sloppy, some were crossing their legs, some were smoking cigarettes, and none of them looked serious. I glanced around, but didn't see Li Xinjue. One of the men in a pink shirt saw me, whistled loudly, and looked me up and down rudely. I ignored him and walked straight behind the screen without stopping. The man in the pink shirt said, "Huh," and said in a mocking tone, "Do you really think of yourself as Miss Liu from the past?" Behind the screen, Lin Xinjue finally appeared. He was pouring tea for another man on the sofa, and that man was Yihong. Yihong was sitting on the sofa, looking tough, wearing a white shirt and a silver-gray vest with a cigar in his hand. When Lin Xinjue saw me, he immediately spit out the cigarette but deliberately said loudly, "Hey, isn't this the most beautiful lady in Beijing, Miss Liu?" Yihong raised his head and looked me up and down. His eyes were so straightforward that they made me feel uncomfortable. He flicked the ash off his cigar and smiled sarcastically. As expected of the most beautiful woman in Beijing, no wonder Lin Zixuan is willing to be a dog. I suppressed the discomfort in my heart and spoke calmly. "Mr. Yi, stop joking. I came here today because I heard that Mr. Li met my father. A week ago. I don't know the exact time and place." I looked at Lin Xinjue. Lin Xinjue smiled frivolously. "Miss Liu, you are wrong. It was not me who met your father, but Master Yi." I turned my gaze to Yihong and said in a neither humble nor arrogant tone, "Then please let Master Yi tell me something." Yihong frowned, looking embarrassed. "It's been so long, I don't remember it very well." I took a breath and suppressed my emotions. "Please recall it carefully. This is very important to me." He narrowed his eyes, and his smile became more sarcastic. "Ms. Liu, you should have the right attitude when asking for help. Hasn't anyone taught you that?" His tone made my chest feel stuffy, but I remained silent. "Do you think you are still the Miss Liu you used to be?" He sneered. "The Liu family went bankrupt a long time ago, and you are nothing now." He leaned back on the sofa and continued, "How can you get information from me without paying a price?" I know he is right. The Liu family went bankrupt 6 years ago. I have no right to be proud anymore. But in order to find my father, I have to endure it. Taking a deep breath, I asked, "What does Yi Shao want?" He put out his cigar in the ashtray, slowly leaned back on the sofa, and put his feet directly on the coffee table. He looked down at his shoes and said, "My leather shoes seem a little dirty. I need to polish them." As expected of Liu Feifei, she is wild enough. He was clearly humiliating me. I was furious, but I didn't do anything. "Miss Liu, didn't you hear me?" Li Xinjue raised his eyebrows and urged, "Young master, you said his shoes were dirty. Why didn't you clean them quickly?" I turned my eyes away and said coldly, "I don't know how." Li Xinjue made a tisk sound, his tone full of sarcasm. "If you don't know how, you can learn. This opportunity is rare. If you miss this opportunity, you won't have it again." Okay, Shaoli, Yi Hong interrupted him, putting on a hypocritical smile. Miss Liu is Miss Liu after all. It doesn't matter if she doesn't know how to do it. Don't embarrass her. Yes, yes, yes. Li Xinjuan nodded repeatedly, then added with a smile. How about this, Miss Liu? How about a dance? When I heard the word dance, my eyes turned cold, and the feeling of uneasiness in my heart became stronger. I heard that Miss Liu learned classical dance when she was a child. Her dancing posture was like a fairy descending to the earth. Why don't we open our eyes? When the second-generation rich kids who were playing cards outside the screen heard this, they stopped playing and came over to watch the fun. Oh, Miss Liu is also performing for a living? This scene is rare. Stop making noise, Miss Liu is shy. Another person mocked. But she looks so beautiful when she blushes. I can hardly control myself. I was so angry that I was shaking all over, but I didn't lose my temper. Yi Hong raised his hand. Stop making noise. Miss Liu wants to dance. Please be quiet and don't ruin the scenery. The box became quiet, and everyone's eyes were focused on me, with frivolity, sarcasm, and provocation. My hands were clenched into fists, and my nails almost dug into my palms. My pride and self-esteem were fighting fiercely with the cruel reality at this moment. Yi Hong walked up to me, smiling disgustingly and smugly. Miss Liu, don't you want to dance in front of so many people? He lowered his head and approached me, his tone becoming more obscene. Why don't you come home with me tonight and dance for me in private? Listening to his disgusting words, my rationality finally broke down. I grabbed the teacup on the table and splashed the tea on his face. Why don't you take a piss and look at yourself to see what kind of beast you are? I cursed coldly and finally felt a little relieved. I turned around and was about to leave, but the furious Yi Hong grabbed my wrist. Stop. I slapped him in the face with my backhand, loud and crisp. The box suddenly became terribly quiet. Everyone was stunned, and Yi Hong was also confused. By the time he reacted, I had already reached the door. He touched his beaten face and cursed with gritted teeth. Damn it, she's Lu Fei as expected, so wild. I didn't want to pay any more attention to her, so I pushed the door open and walked out, just in time to see Lin Zixuan arguing with the bodyguard. Do you know who I am? How dare you stop me? Lin Zixuan was so angry that his face turned red and he rolled up his sleeves. The two bodyguards still stood coldly at the door. Mr. Lin, if you keep making trouble, we will not be polite. At this time, I opened the door of the box. When Lin Zixuan saw me, he was finally relieved and hurried over. Fei, are you okay? I shook my head and said calmly, let's go, we'll talk on the way. He didn't ask any more questions and followed me out of the hotel. Lin Zixuan drove his Audi, and I sat in the passenger seat, looking out the window, feeling a little dazed. Did Yi Hong embarrass you? He looked at me worriedly. I pursed my lips and smiled. I splashed tea on his face and slapped him. Lin Zixuan was stunned for a moment, then laughed. Fei, you did a great job. There's no need to give face to that kind of scum. But I didn't laugh. I sighed softly, but I kind of regret it now. I leaned against the car window and lowered my voice, because the clues to my dad may be cut off like this. Chapter 18 Ji Tao, S-Daughter. I looked at Lin Zixuan, and my heart was filled with warmth. He comforted me softly. Fei, don't be too pessimistic. If your father is really in Beijing, he will show up. Next time, it can't be that only Yi Hong as people have seen him, right? I nodded and responded to him. Yes. If I can find my father, I want to stay in Jing City. Then I can bring Xiao Futi back to China. Xiao Futi is my daughter. Her tender little face appeared in my mind, and my heart was filled with tenderness and mixed emotions. For years ago, I had just given birth to my first child, but I had to leave the hospital for some reason. At that time, it was Lin Zixuan who escorted me out of Beijing, and I was able to escape. Later, when I went abroad, I discovered that there was another child in my belly, a child who miraculously survived. The doctor told me that the second child was accidentally retained in my uterus because my cervix closed and my uterine contractions stopped after delivery. I could hardly believe my ears when I heard the news. However, my physical condition was very bad at the time. I was vomiting day and night due to the unfamiliar climate and water, and I was so weak that I couldn't even live a normal life, let alone get pregnant. During that period, I was able to survive thanks to Lin Zixuan's meticulous care. If it weren't for him, Xiao Futi and I probably wouldn't be alive today. Recalling this, I sighed softly and couldn't help but feel that this kindness lasted for 4 whole years. At the same time, in Tingyu Villa, the study was pitch black, with only the street lights and moonlight shining through the glass, casting a cool glow. Ji Tao sat behind his desk, his black shirt outlining his slender figure. He lit a cigarette, and his eyes became more profound amid the smoke. The study door was pushed open, and Ji Lan walked in. He glanced at the dark room and said with a smile, "Master Geo is worthy of being Master Geo. He has even developed night vision." As the lights suddenly came on, the dazzling light made Ji Tao squint slightly. Ji Lan put a document on the table and said solemnly, "Master Geo, there is some bad news. Which one do you want to hear first?" Ji Tao did not answer, but asked coldly, "Did she go to see Yi Hong?" Ji Lan chuckled. Master Geo is well informed. Yi Hong actually wanted Miss Liu to sleep with him for a night, and even asked her to dance for him in private. Before he finished speaking, Ji Tao's eyes were filled with murderous intent, and his tone was cold. "I don't know how high the sky is or how deep the earth is. Find a few people to destroy him." Ji Lan nodded in agreement, and then continued, "There is one more thing. During the years that Miss Liu was abroad, someone deliberately erased most of her information. I only found out some basic information." He paused, then continued, "Ms. Liu is currently a suspense novel writer. She has published 7 works in 4 years and is quite famous. She has also sold film and television copyrights, and a TV series is about to be broadcast soon." Hearing this, Ji Tao seemed stunned. He had never thought that I would write a suspense novel. After all, he remembered that I loved watching idol dramas the most. However, the corners of his mouth raised slightly, as if he was proud of my achievement. Ji Lan noticed his expression and continued tentatively. But when she was abroad, she seemed to have a good relationship with Lin Zixuan. They lived very close to each other, door to door, and they also raised a little girl together. As soon as he finished speaking, Ji Tao's breath suddenly sank, and his whole body became cold, as if the whole study had instantly fallen into an ice cellar. He clenched his hands, veins popping out, and he was so angry that he grabbed the crystal ashtray on the table and smashed it against the wall. Bah! With a loud bang, the ashtray broke into pieces and the fragments were scattered all over the floor. He growled, "Lin Zixuan, I won't let him go." Ji Lan tried to comfort him. Master Geo calmed down and asked, "Is that little girl born to Lin Zixuan?" Chapter 19 to 20 Follow Me Home. Ji Lan's face froze, and he quickly replied, "There is not much information available so far, so we cannot confirm who the little girl's parents are." This sounded vague, but Ji Tao already had the answer in his mind. If he was not born to Lin Zixuan, why did they raise him together? Thinking of this, the rage in his chest intensified. He could not accept that Lu Feifei had any relationship with another man, and his eyes flashed with murderous intent. In a rage, he swept across the desk and with a wave of his arm, swept everything to the ground, and a clanging noise suddenly rang out in the study. Ji Lan coldly, and his gaze was like a sharp blade cutting across the neck, scaring Ji Lan so much that he couldn't help but shrink his neck. He wiped the cold sweat from his forehead and hurriedly left. Not long after, he came back with a glass of water and a few pills, and handed them to Ji Tao carefully. "Master Geo, take some medicine." After Lu Feifei left 4 years ago, Ji Tao suffered from severe bipolar disorder, and only after a long period of treatment did he get better. In the past few years, he forced himself not to mention that name, and finally lived a normal life. But now, less than 24 hours after Lu Feifei returned to Beijing, his condition seemed to have been flipped on and quickly relapsed. Ji Tao took the cup, poured out most of the water in it, threw the pill in, and swallowed it in one gulp. Ji Lan looked at his way of taking medicine, speechlessly, feeling emotional in his heart. He was surprised every time he saw this kind of operation. After taking the medicine, Ji Tao calmed down a little. Ji Lan asked someone to come in and clean up the study, and soon the study was back to its original neatness. After locking the door, Ji Lan lowered her voice and said, "Master Geo, I think if you want to win back Miss Liu, you should tell her the identity of Dushabeo. If she knew you had a child, she would definitely be soft-hearted." The identity of Dushabeo was only known by Ji Tao, Ji Lan, and the doctor at that time. It was rumored that he was an adopted child. Hearing this, Ji Tao looked indifferent and raised his thin lips slightly. "She doesn't like children, it's useless." His tone was calm, but the words "she doesn't like children" were like a thorn that kept piercing his heart. Ji Lan was stunned and couldn't understand. Someone doesn't even like the child he gave birth to? Ji Tao didn't explain anymore, just picked up the car keys and said coldly, "I'm going out for a while. Don't follow me." In the supermarket, I was carrying large and small bags and putting them into the car, which was already full of things. Zishuan, please send these back first. I'll go shopping for a while. There are still some things I haven't bought yet. Okay, then be careful and wait for me to pick you up. Lin Zishuan drove away, and I returned to the supermarket. When I came out, I was holding a big bag in each hand, which was so heavy that my fingers were numb. Standing on the side of the road, I sent my location to Lin Zishuan and waited quietly for him to come and pick me up. But the person who came was not Lin Zishuan, but a familiar Rolls-Royce Phantom. When I saw the car, my heart tightened, and I immediately hid behind a big tree on the side of the road, praying silently in my heart, "It's just passing by, don't notice me." But unfortunately, the opposite happened. The car slowly stopped not far from me. The car door opened, and a familiar tall figure walked out of the car. He was still dressed in black, with a cold face as if covered with a layer of frost, and his aura was so strong that it was suffocating. After 4 years, he hasn't changed much, except that he is less flamboyant and more mature. Now, he is no longer the richest man in Beijing, but the richest man in the country. I looked at him. The only thought in my mind was to escape. I turned and ran, but after a few steps, his big hand grabbed my arm. He was very strong and pulled me back easily. "What are you doing?" I stared at him defensively. "Come home with me." His tone was cold and hard, and he didn't allow for rejection. Then he stuffed me into the car. My thin body fell on the soft seat. I immediately stood up and wanted to run, but I heard the car door slam shut and the safety lock fell down. The car started and sped away. He was still as overbearing and unreasonable as before. I was so angry that my chest heaved, and I angrily said, "Jitao, what do you want to do? When will you respect me a little? I am a human being, not an object." "I wish you were an object," he said coldly, his eyes hiding a paranoid possessiveness. If she were an object, she would never escape from him. I took a deep breath, tried to calm myself down, and said in the calmest tone possible, "Stop the car now. I want to get off." However, Ji Tao ignored it and stepped on the accelerator to the bottom. The car speed suddenly increased, and the car on the winding mountain road rushed towards a familiar direction like a gust of wind. The car finally stopped in front of a villa. I looked up and froze. I had lived here for 2 whole years. Just standing here, countless nightmare-like memories came flooding back to my mind. My nails dug into the back of the front seat tightly, and I felt suffocated. The fear from within made me unable to move. Ji Tao got out of the car, walked around to the back seat, and pulled me out of the car. He saw that I was shaking, and the corners of his mouth curled up slightly, and he asked in a low voice, "Are you scared?" I didn't answer because I couldn't make a sound. Fear was like a tide swallowing me whole. He brought me into the villa without saying a word, and threw me on the big bed in the bedroom with ease. The bed was soft, but the familiar violet sheets under me made my hair stand on end. Nothing here has changed since 4 years ago. Even the bed sheets are the same ones I picked back then. Time seems to have frozen, and the nightmare in my memory has been dragged back to reality. "You said you would let me go after I gave birth to the baby." I forced myself to calm down, raised my head, and said with a trembling voice, "What do you mean now?" He looked down at me, a sarcastic smile on his face. "Me letting you go and you running away on your own are 2 different things." After saying that, he leaned over to me and kissed me all over. I subconsciously turned my head to avoid it, but his breath still made me breathless. My resistance seemed to make him even angrier. He pinched my face with such force that my facial features were distorted. I screamed in pain. "Ah, Jitao, let go." He smiled coldly. "Why are you pretending to be a chaste and heroic woman?" The kisses kept coming down without any pause. I struggled helplessly like a suffocated fish, with no oxygen in my chest. While struggling, I accidentally tore his shirt, and several buttons rolled onto the sheets, revealing his strong chest. He finally let me go. I gasped and looked up to notice a long scar on his abdomen. I have never seen that scar before. When was it caused? I couldn't help but sneer in my heart. Was he stabbed by his enemy? Why didn't he stab him to death? Before I had time to think about it, I felt a big hot hand sliding across my waist. He had rolled up the hem of my t-shirt, and the temperature of his palm burned my skin like fire. "Stop it," I yelled, reaching out to push him. But he was too strong, and the strength from years of fitness was not something I could shake. In desperation, I reached for the bedside lamp, grabbed it without hesitation, and smashed it hard on his head. Bang! This blow was merciless. He groaned, his movements paused, and his body froze. Dushabeo, who was standing outside the door, was startled by the noise. He followed secretly, thinking he could see his future stepmother, but he didn't expect that this stepmother was actually the beautiful sister at the airport. Most importantly, this stepmother actually dared to beat his father. How brave! Dushabeo opened his eyes wide and hid outside the door, not daring to make a sound. He could only hold his breath and watch the situation inside quietly. Chapter 21. Do you have him in your heart? Dushabeo hid outside the door and watched all this quietly. For the first time, his little mind was shaken by his father's lion-like mighty image. He always thought that his father was invincible, but now he was hit on the head by a lamp from his stepmother. He made up his mind that he must cling to his stepmother's thighs in the future. She is so powerful, even more powerful than his father. Inside the house, before Ji Tao recovered from the pain, Lu Feifei had already taken the opportunity to rush out. She hurried downstairs and seemed to catch a glimpse of a little dumpling as she passed by. But it was dark outside, so she didn't have time to think about it and ran out without stopping. Ji Tao covered his injured head and felt the blood on his cheek flowing down the wound. He raised his hand to touch it and immediately frowned in pain, gnashing his teeth and cursing. Lu Feifei, you are so cruel. I ran as fast as I could on the winding mountain road outside the villa, and finally saw a beam of car lights shining from afar. My heart suddenly jumped into my throat. I didn't slow down my pace until I saw clearly that it was Lin Zixuan. The car braked suddenly to the side of the road. He jumped out of the driver's seat and ran toward me quickly, his face full of worry. Fei, what's wrong with you? Did he cause you trouble? It's okay. I shook my head, trying to look calmer, and whispered, let's go. But Lin Zixuan looked me over and immediately saw something was wrong. My clothes were in disarray, and I only had one shoe left. I didn't look like I was fine. His face darkened instantly, and his fists clenched so hard that they made a clattering sound. He bullied you, didn't he? I'm going to settle the score with him now. No! I quickly stopped him, saying urgently, Zixuan, calm down. He is not someone we can mess with. Get out of here quickly and don't cause any trouble. But the anger on Lin Zixuan's face did not subside at all, but became more determined. He said hatefully, why did Ji Tao bully you like this? I can't swallow this breath. Zixuan, don't sacrifice yourself for me. My tone softened, almost pleading. He was stunned for a moment, then said firmly, if it's to help you, what does it matter if I get involved? Have you ever thought about this? If he chases us, neither you nor I will be able to escape. I suppressed the fear in my heart, and my voice almost trembled. Listen to me and leave quickly. After my repeated urging, he finally compromised, got back into the car, and took me down the mountain. The silence in the car was somewhat depressing. After a while, he suddenly asked, Fei, do you still have him in your heart? Did you love him? His words startled me, and then a surge of anger suddenly surged in my heart. I looked up at him, almost shouting, Zixuan, how could you have such an idea? No matter who I like, I can never like Ji Tao. I hate him for deliberately delaying medical expenses and causing my mother's death. I hate him for imprisoning me for 2 years and forcing me to do things I didn't want to do. Even if I die alone, I will never be with Ji Tao. Hearing my answer, the gloom on Lin Zixuan's face disappeared, and he smiled. I'm sorry, Fei, I shouldn't have doubted you. I didn't say anything else. My eyes fell on the back seat. There were 2 big bags there, all of which were the things I bought earlier. Lin Zixuan explained. I saw your location and chased after you, but I couldn't find you. I only saw some things dropped on the ground and guessed that you bought them. I was worried that something happened to you, so I chased after you all the way here. Thank you, I whispered, feeling guilty. Lin Zixuan was good to me, but I knew I could never give him what he wanted. Inside the villa, the room was filled with a strong smell of blood. Ji Tao was sitting on the sofa. A girl was standing in front of him, using a cotton swab to treat the wound on his head. The girl was in her early 20s. She wasn't a great beauty, but she had a pretty face and looked very comfortable. 6 Grandpa, were you assassinated? The girl looked cunning and raised a teasing smile. But the assassin's skills were not very good. He didn't kill you with 1 blow. I guess you subdued him, right? Ji Tao glanced at her and said coldly, shut up. The girl was Ji Aoqing, from the side branch of the Ji family. She had admired the rumored ruthless 6th grandfather since she was a child, but seeing his miserable appearance at this moment, she couldn't help but want to tease him. But she knew very well that if she said one more word, Ji Tao would show no mercy. So she shut up and concentrated on treating his wounds, but she secretly laughed in her heart. I'm afraid there are not many people who can hurt sixth grandpa like this, right? Chapter 22 Mom. The G family is a very large family. The head of the family has more than a dozen children, and the relationships within the family are complicated. Ji Tao is the youngest in the family. His mother was only 19 years old when she gave birth to him, and when he was 1 month old, it was his father's 60th birthday. Now, at a young age, his generation has been greatly upgraded and he has become a grandfather. Ji Tao just snorted and didn't answer. Ji Ouching lowered her eyes and saw that his shirt was torn and the scar on his abdomen was like a centipede, very hideous. She sighed. Someone thought that by stabbing himself in the stomach, he could experience the pain of childbirth. But he didn't know anything about it. When you were lying in the operating room, he had already fled the country. Shut up, Ji Tao ordered in a deep voice, with displeasure flashing in his black eyes. No one dared to mention this matter, and only Ji Ouching had the courage to do so. She was not convinced, Six Grandpa. I feel sorry for you. I really don't understand. You are so well off. You can have any woman you want. So what is so special about Lu Feifei that you are so worthy of this? Isn't she just a little prettier? Why are you pretending all day long? Ji Ouching. Ji Tao shouted angrily, pointing in the direction of the door. Get out. Ji Ouching was also a little bit angry and started packing the medicine box with a lot of noise. Go away if you want to. Don't come to me again when you are sick or injured. I didn't learn medicine for you. I studied medicine to save people. Oh, and I have to tell my great-grandfather. Halfway through the walk, Ji Tao said coldly, Stop, come back. Ji Ouching immediately stepped back with an uncontrollable smile on her face. Are you afraid of bleeding to death? Ji Tao pointed at the wound on his head and ordered, It's not done yet, continue. After a pause, he added, Don't tell your great-grandfather a word. Otherwise, you won't have any pocket money next month. Ji Ouching smiled flatteringly. Yes, I get it, rich man. On the way back, Lu Feifei received a call from Dushabeo, which was a bit surprising. Hey, red bean paste bun. Mom! Dushabeo was very excited to hear her voice. Lu Feifei. Suddenly she had a son, and she couldn't handle it. It took her a while to react and corrected him. Dushabeo, I'm not your mother. I'm your sister who helped you at the airport this morning. Do you remember? I know, Dushabeo said seriously. I have only had a father since I was a child, but no mother. Everyone else has a mother, but I don't. I want you to be my mother. He sounded quite pitiful. Lu Feifei did not blame him and said in a gentle voice, Dushabeo, everyone has a mother. Although your mother is not with you now, as long as you eat well and grow up well, you will definitely see her in the future. Really, sister won't lie to you. Well, I believe my sister, my beautiful sister, won't lie. Be good. It's so late. Kids should go to bed early. Okay, I'll take a rest then. Good night, sister. Good night. After hanging up the phone, Lin Zixuan asked curiously, Who is it? The kid I met at the airport this morning asked me to be his mother. He started yelling when I came up to him. It scared me to death. Lin Zixuan couldn't help laughing. Because you are pretty and gentle. All the kids like you. Actually, I didn't like kids before. In the past, Lu Feifei thought children were troublesome and always crying. But since she had a daughter, her heart has gradually softened. Chapter 23 Sorry. Lu Feifei hired a private detective to track down her father's whereabouts. When I was packing up and getting ready to go out, the elevator opened with a ding, and inside lay a man covered in blood. Lu Feifei screamed in fright, her face turned pale, and she took several steps back. But the person on the ground was like a ghost, crawling towards her feet, saying something as he crawled. Lu Feifei was frightened and knocked on Lin Zixuan's door. Zixuan. Lin Zixuan heard the noise and hurried out. When he saw the man, he was also shocked. It's okay. Don't be afraid. He protected Lu Feifei behind him. The man looked seriously injured, with many whip marks and burns on his skin. Not a single piece of skin was intact. As he crawled over, he left a trail of blood on the ground, which was shocking. As he crawled, he uttered a few words breathlessly. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Lin Zixuan looked at the man's face carefully. His face was covered in blood, and his original appearance could not be seen. But suddenly, he found that those eyes were very familiar. Is it this Yi Hong? Yi Hong? He exclaimed in surprise. The person on the ground really reacted, stopped crawling, and looked up at him. Lin Zixuan and he have always been at odds with each other, and he had made things difficult for Lu Feifei last night. Seeing his miserable state at this moment, he felt inexplicably happy. Lu Feifei was also shocked. This person was actually Yi Hong? Who hurt you like this? He was clearly a nobleman when we met last night, but now he is covered in blood and looks like a zombie. Yi Hong opened his mouth, but could not make a sound. I don't know. I just remember that I drank a little too much at the Sofitel Hotel last night. When I went to the bathroom, someone suddenly covered my head with a black bag and took me to an abandoned factory with no one around. I was tortured the whole night. The other party told him that he must apologize to Lu Feifei. Otherwise, he will not live to see tomorrow. He asked me to apologize, sorry. Lu Feifei felt a chill on her back. Could it be him? Zitao? He tortured the man into a state where he was neither human nor ghost, with one foot already at the gate of hell. And yet he still asked him to come and apologize in person. He is the only one who can be so cruel. Yi Hong repeated the 3 words, I'm sorry, over and over again until he was completely exhausted, bled too much, and passed out in shock. You deserve it. Lin Zixuan looked coldly at the person lying on the ground like a dead body. But he still took out his cell phone and called an ambulance. After all, this man was lying at the doorstep of his own house. If he was left alone, he would die, which would be quite unlucky. Lu Feifei was still in shock, and her face was a little pale. Lin Zixuan comforted her. Feifei, are you scared? Don't be afraid. I'll take care of everything. Lu Feifei smiled and said, I'm fine, but I have to go out now. I have an appointment with a private detective. I hope to find new clues about my father. Then I'll take you there. No need. Zixuan, you stay here in case anything unexpected happens to Yi Hong. Lin Zixuan glanced at the bloody man on the ground, hesitated for a moment, and agreed. Okay, be careful on the road. I'll pick you up later. Coffee shop. On a quiet summer afternoon, soothing light music was playing in the cafe, and the air conditioning temperature was just right, cool and refreshing. In an inconspicuous corner, Lu Feifei and the private detective sat face to face. The other person looked to be in his 30s, with ordinary appearance and clothing, the kind that would be forgotten in a second if put in a crowd. Someone said that they saw my father in Jing City a week ago. I want to know if this news is true. If it is true, where and when did my father appear? Can we continue to track down his whereabouts? As long as you help me find out, the price is negotiable. Chapter 24, The Stain is Hidden. The private detective took a sip of coffee and chuckled. Miss Lu asked me personally, even if I don't have money, I am willing to serve you. Whether it was a deliberate mockery or an impure purpose, Lu Feifei's face was cold, and she said coldly, just charge what you want. Okay, then please pay the deposit first, Miss Lu. Lu Feifei was also quick and transferred the money quickly. The private detective was very satisfied. Thank you, Miss Lu, for the coffee. I will contact you if I have any news. It must be done as soon as possible, please. After the private detective left, Lu Feifei sat for a while and finished all her coffee. When I got up to leave, I suddenly heard a familiar voice. Feifei. Lu Feifei turned around in surprise, and the man's voice became even more excited. It's really you, Feifei. Lu Feifei saw the other person's appearance. She didn't dare to recognize him at first. Cici? Lu Cici, her second uncle's daughter, her cousin, is a few months younger than her. They grew up together and had a good relationship, but they have lost contact since the bankruptcy. It's me. Lu Cici ran over and hugged her excitedly. It's really you. I didn't expect to meet you here. What a surprise. Me too. Cici, you've changed so much that I can't recognize you anymore. Lu Cici looks different now. She used to have single eyelids, but now she has double eyelids. Her previously flat nose has become straighter, and her chin is also a little sharper. Lu Cici didn't think there was anything to hide. Everyone loves beauty, and so do I. With advanced technology now, it's normal to spend some money to make yourself look better. Lu Feifei nodded. It's really beautiful. Lu Cici smiled happily and found an unfinished cup of coffee on the seat opposite her. Is anyone here? Your friend? No, he's gone. Date. Lu Cici's eyes turned gossipy. Lu Feifei said hurriedly. What are you thinking about? Why are you making an appointment? I just want to meet a private detective to help me find my father. Oh. Lu Cici understood immediately. I heard that you have been abroad in the past few years. Are you coming back for your uncle this time? I heard that someone saw my father in Beijing. If I can find him, I don't want to go abroad again. Lu Cici held her hand, with a look of pity on her face. It's been 6 years in a flash. During these 6 years, I often thought of you, but I couldn't contact you. It would be best if you could stay in Beijing so that you can visit more often in the future. 6 years? Lu Feifei was surprised. Hadn't she only been abroad for 4 years? Yes, 6 years ago, Ji Tao spent 10 billion to buy you. Everyone thought he was out for revenge, and you were doomed. But unexpectedly, half a month later, I heard that you went abroad. You must have escaped death, right? Lu Feifei felt incredible. Didn't anyone know that she had been imprisoned for 2 years? No one knew that she was pregnant with Ji Tao's child. These stains were hidden so well. A trace of grateful smile appeared on her pretty face. Yes, life has been difficult in the past few years, but thanks to Zishuan who has always taken care of me. Zishuan? Are you talking about Lin Zishuan? The one who used to confess to you every day. Lu Cece thought of some things in the past and felt a little uncomfortable. From the first moment she saw Lin Zishuan, she fell in love with this gentleman, but he only had eyes for Lu Feifei. She is so beautiful, so dazzling, and so charming. I will always be a foil beside her and can only silently observe the person I like. Chapter 25. Every passing dog should take a look. Yes, Zishuan is very good to me. I used to think he was just like those men, just attracted by my face, and it was a spur-of-the-moment thing. I didn't expect him to last so long. I owe him a lot. Lu Feifei thought about it. The more guilty she felt, and her eyes gradually dimmed. Lu Cece pursed her lips and asked, "So you are together now?" "No." Lu Feifei shook her head. "I won't consider these until I find my father and find out the truth about the bankruptcy." Lu Cece secretly breathed a sigh of relief. But when she thought about how Lin Zishuan was willing to take care of her even though he knew he would get nothing, she felt upset again. "Fei Fei, you are so beautiful and there is no shortage of men around you. I have experienced this since I was a child. But you are no longer the eldest daughter of the Lu family, so you still have to keep some distance from men. Otherwise, there will be a lot of negative rumors in society. This world is really unfriendly to beautiful women." Lu Feifei had already experienced this from Yi Hong yesterday. After her family went bankrupt, everyone just mocked and teased her. Lu Feifei was very touched that Lu Cece could say such pertinent words. "I know, Cece, thank you." Lu Cece showed a cheerful smile. "But it doesn't matter. I will protect you. Oh, by the way, come to my house for dinner tonight. My parents will definitely be happy to see you. Their fathers are brothers, so it is time to visit them and also to learn about the bankruptcy process." Lu Feifei nodded and agreed. Then Lu Cece received a phone call and seemed to have work to do, so she left in a hurry. Lu Feifei left soon after, but just as she got downstairs, it started raining heavily outside. There was heavy rain pouring down, thunder roaring, and the sky gradually darkened like night. The rain came suddenly, and many people were blocked at the entrance of the mall. Some were worried, some sighed, and some cursed. Lu Feifei stood quietly waiting for the rain to stop. Suddenly, she saw a familiar car parked in the rain. It was a Rolls-Royce Phantom that he often drove. The window was halfway down, revealing his handsome profile, which was a little blurry in the rain. Lu Feifei just took a quick glance and then looked away, just in time to see Lin Zishuan's car coming. Before Lin Zishuan came to pick her up with an umbrella, she had already got into the car in the rain. Ji Tao's face darkened instantly. Such a magnificent car is parked here, and every passing dog would take a look. But she can't see it? Is she blind? The moment Lin Zishuan's car brushed past his, he showed a smug smile. Who says there is no spring for bootlickers? Licking the dog, licking to the end, you will get everything. Ji Tao's eyes were gloomy. He stepped on the accelerator, aimed at the rear of his car, and sped away. Lin Zishuan saw it from the rearview mirror and was immediately frightened. He quickly changed lanes and adjusted direction. Ji Tao chased after him relentlessly. His anger took away his reason, and he was filled with savagery. Just as the car was about to collide, Ji Tao suddenly braked. The body leaned forward due to inertia, and sparks flew as the wheels rubbed against the ground. After all, he still took into consideration Lu Feifei, who was in the car, and was afraid that she might get hurt. Lu Feifei looked back and saw that the Rolls-Royce had stopped in the same place and was getting farther and farther away from her. She finally breathed a sigh of relief. He muttered to himself, "What a lunatic." Seeing that she looked pale and frightened, Lin Zishuan comforted her. "Fei Fei, it's okay. He doesn't dare to do that." "Yeah," Lu Feifei responded, stopped talking, and lowered her head to think about things. Chapter 26. Daddy. After returning home, Lu Feifei took a towel and wiped her hair after entering the door. Lin Zishuan also followed in. Yi Hong has been sent to the hospital. His injuries are quite serious. Whether he can survive depends on his own strength. I have also cleaned up the bloodstains in the corridor. Thank you, you've worked hard. Please sit down for a while. Why are you so polite? Lin Zixuan sat on the sofa, his posture very natural, as if he was at home. Lu Feifei wiped her hair for a while, and then her cell phone rang. It was her daughter calling. Good evening, Mommy. Little Feudy waved excitedly at the camera. Wow, Uncle Lin is here too. There is a time difference between foreign countries and Beijing. It is night there now. Xiao Feudy has just finished taking a bath and is wearing pink cat pajamas. Her hair seems to have just been blow-dried. Good evening, Xiao Feudy. Lu Feifei saw her daughter. Her voice and smile became gentle. Mommy, when can I go back to Beijing? I miss you and Uncle Lin so much. When you have your holiday, Mom will pick you up? Okay. Good. The mother and daughter were chatting, and Lin Zixuan was watching them with a smile on his face. Fei Fei, do you want to wash your hair? He suddenly asked. After all, you got caught in the rain. It's not good for your hair to be dried like this. It will be much more comfortable if you wash your hair and blow-dry it. Lu Feifei thought so too. Besides, she had to go to Lu Cici's house for dinner in the evening, so she had to dress properly. Then I'll go wash my hair while you chat with Xiao Feudy for a while. Lu Feifei entered the bathroom, and as soon as she closed the sliding door, Lin Zixuan made an okay gesture. Xiao Feudy on the other side of the video muttered, Daddy, will Mommy really take me back? Of course, she won't lie to you. Daddy, when are you and Mommy going to get married? I want to see you take wedding photos. I want to be a flower girl. I want to have a mommy and a daddy, just like other kids. Daddy will try his best, but in the end it still depends on your mommy's opinion. So, Xiao Feudy, please help me more. Lin Zixuan made a gesture to cheer himself up. I will. Xiao Feudy nodded vigorously, but soon became hesitant. But now I don't even dare to call you daddy in front of Mommy, I'm scared. Little Feudy grew up under Lin Zixuan's care, and naturally thought of him as her daddy, and called him that easily. Later Lu Feifei heard it one day. The result was obvious. She was beaten. From then on, the name Daddy became a secret between her and Lin Zixuan, and she could only call him that when Lu Feifei was not around. Xiao Feudy, don't be anxious. We have to take our time. As long as you and I stand on the same front, we will succeed one day. Xiao Feudy was encouraged by him. Okay, I believe, Daddy, it will work. Lu Feifei came out after washing her hair. The two of them were still chatting, and she was a little surprised. What are you talking about? Why are you talking for so long? Just chatting. Lin Zixuan replied. Xiao Feudy is alone over there, with only servants taking care of her. She must be quite lonely. I'll keep her company for a while. Okay, you guys chat slowly. I'll go put on some makeup. Are you going out tonight? Lin Zixuan glanced at her sideways. Lu Feifei nodded. I met my cousin Lu Cici in a cafe today. Do you remember me? She invited me to her house for dinner. It was a good opportunity to visit my uncle and aunt. Oh, that country girl. He used to always follow Lu Feifei, and the two were inseparable. Lin Zixuan had some impression of him. Chapter 27, I'm just a driver. Hearing Lin Zixuan say this, Lu Feifei was a little unhappy and retorted. Cici just didn't know how to dress up before, but now she has become very beautiful. When you see her, you will know how much she has changed. Lin Zixuan smiled indifferently. I'm not interested in meeting her. Lu Feifei finished putting on makeup and changed her clothes. She was wearing a light yellow knee-length skirt. The skirt was simple in style, without too many decorations. There was only a belt around her waist, which was not tied too tightly, and her slender waist was outlined. She was wearing a pair of thick-heeled satin shoes, and her fair and slender calves were exposed, which was elegant and pleasing to the eye. The rain outside has eased a bit, but there is no sign of stopping. Lin Zixuan has already taken the car keys. Fei Fei, this rain won't stop anytime soon. Let me take you there. Drive to Lu Cici's home. This is a wealthy area. Every house is gorgeous and magnificent. There are not many people around. It is very deserted. Occasionally you can see one or two expensive luxury cars. Lu Feifei's family went bankrupt. Lu Cici's father established a new company, Feng Hung Industrial. Under her father's name, many of her former customers moved to this new company. In the past few years, Lu Cici's family has become more and more wealthy, and now it can be said that they are on the verge of becoming a wealthy family in Beijing. The car stopped at the door, and I sent a message to Lu Cici. Soon the servant came out to open the door. Lu Cici stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling window in the living room. It was raining heavily outside. She didn't want to come out to greet them, but she suddenly saw the man she had been thinking about day and night standing next to Lu Feifei. The man held an umbrella for Lu Feifei, revealing a gentle and handsome face, which made Lu Cici's heart skip a beat. Without thinking about anything, without even changing my shoes, I ran to the door in the rain. Feifei, you're finally here. I've been waiting for you. Before Lu Cici could finish her words, she slipped. Ah! She screamed and threw herself forward. Be careful. Lu Feifei wanted to help, but she was holding gifts in both hands, and it was not easy to throw them on the ground because the paper box would get soaked by the rain. Lu Cici threw herself into Lin Zixuan's arms as she wished, and a smile suddenly appeared on her face. Lin Zixuan straightened her up and said politely but awkwardly, the road is slippery in the rain. Watch your step. Thank you. Lu Cici's smile became more shy. Why is Master Lin here too? How about we have dinner together? They are relatives, and Lin Zixuan is an outsider, so he doesn't feel comfortable staying for dinner. I'm just a driver. I came here specially to bring Feifei here. You don't have to eat. I'll pick you up after you eat. Lu Cici was about to say something else, when suddenly her parents came out holding umbrellas. Second uncle, second aunt. Lu Feifei greeted them with a smile, but they seemed not to hear it, and their eyes were on Lin Zixuan. Oh, Master Lin, you are so welcome. Come in and have a seat. It's raining, so don't stand at the door. Seemingly embarrassed to refuse the kind invitation from his elders, Lin Zixuan had no choice but to agree. Went into the house and put on slippers. Uncle, Aunt, I bought some things for you. Where should I put them? There were a lot of things, and Lu Feifei carried them for a long time until her hands became numb. Second aunt glanced at it and said casually, just put it on the ground. The servants will put it away later. The second uncle looked at Lu Feifei and asked, Feifei, when did you return home? You didn't even tell us in advance so that we could pick you up. We are all family. Why are you being so formal? I arrived in Jing City yesterday. I heard that someone saw my father, so I hurried back. Lu Feifei explained, and then asked, second uncle has been in Jing City for so many years. Has he heard any news about my father? Chapter 28. Played with by Jiu Yi and thrown abroad. After asking this, second uncle suddenly became impatient. How would I know? He disappeared after he went bankrupt, and I was almost implicated. There has been no news from him for so many years. If he is still alive, please come to me. I will definitely help him if I can. He is so good. Uncle Air realized that he had said too much and quickly changed the subject. By the way, Feifei, what kind of job do you have now? If you don't have a job, just ask and Uncle Air will arrange one for you. Thank you, Uncle. I am writing books now, and the income is pretty good. Write a book? Will anyone read it? Can you make money? Second aunt expressed doubt. Lu Cici said hurriedly, Mom, you know Feifei has a lot of skills. She has learned singing, dancing, painting, writing, and piano since she was a child. No matter what she does, she can support herself. Second aunt didn't care and held Lu Cici's hand. If we talk about the best, my Cici is the best. She is now a well-known stylist in the industry and has done styling for many celebrities. She is now the general manager of Gu Group and Miss Gu's exclusive stylist. Lu Feifei thought about it carefully and seemed to have never heard of this Miss Gu. She could only bite the bullet and say, that's really amazing. Second Annie was even more proud. That's right, much better than those who rely on beauty to make a living. Then, she changed the subject and said with a smile, Feifei, I didn't say anything about you. You've already said it. What else can you say? Just then the servant finished serving the last dish, and it was time to eat. Several people entered the restaurant together. The dining table was rectangular and covered with an exquisite tablecloth. In the middle was a vase with a few fresh lilies in it. My second uncle and second aunt sat in the main seats at the innermost part. Lu Cici sat next to her second uncle, and Lu Feifei sat opposite her. Lin Zixuan took a look and was about to sit next to her, but was stopped by his second aunt. Master Lin, please sit next to my Cici. Second uncle also said, I just met your father last week. Maybe our two families will cooperate next month. Lin Zixuan had no choice but to sit next to Lu Cici. As soon as he sat down, Lu Cici couldn't wait to pick up some food for him. Try this honey-glazed pork ribs. I made it. Thanks. Second aunt smiled and continued. You and my Cici are about the same age, so why not get to know each other? You never know if you'll be a good match. Lin Zixuan understood the meaning of the words very clearly. He said, Thank you, uncle and aunt, but I already have someone I like, and I'm not interested in meeting other girls for now. Lin Zixuan likes Lu Feifei. Even many elders have heard of it, including his second uncle and second aunt. Second auntie got angry when she heard this and said sarcastically, "Oh, you mean the woman that was toyed with by Master Jiao and then abandoned abroad?" Lu Feifei was stunned for a few seconds. She didn't expect these words to come from her second aunt's mouth. Before the family went bankrupt, second aunt would visit her house every few days and try every way to please her. Second aunt, you're going too far. After all, you are the elder. Please be careful with your words. Years of ladylike cultivation have prevented her from uttering swear words. Second aunt didn't expect that she would refute her. She was very annoyed and continued to scold her in the tone of an elder. You have never learned your lesson since you were young. You always dress flashily to seduce others, and there are always men around you. People like you who are so immodest are really bringing shame to our family of Lu. Chapter 29, You Are No Longer a Young Lady. Second aunt's words were harsh, and Lu Feifei could no longer bear it. She stood up suddenly and glared at her. What's wrong with you? Are you angry just because I told you a few truths? You really have the temper of a young lady. But have you forgotten that you are no longer a young lady? Second aunt smiled mockingly as she spoke. Lu Feifei clenched her fists. She wanted to leave, but she came here today to ask her second uncle about the truth behind his bankruptcy. At that time, my second uncle also worked in the family company and was responsible for warehouse management. But as soon as the company went bankrupt, my second uncle immediately set up a new company, and all the old customers flowed to him, so it was hard not to suspect him. Just as Lu Feifei was hesitating, Lin Zixuan could no longer sit still and walked over to her. Feifei, let's go. He pulled Lu Feifei and walked out. Huh. Second aunt was surprised. Just saying a few words and leaving is really rude. Seeing her lover leave, Lu Cece felt bad and complained. Mom, why don't you say less? You have to drive him away. Then he hurriedly chased after him. Feifei, Master Lin, wait. The rain stopped outside, but there was a lot of water in the yard. Lu Cece walked over, splashing a lot of water. Cece? Lu Feifei turned to look at her. Feifei, I'm sorry. Lu Cece said with a self-blaming look. I didn't expect my mother would say these things. It's really too rude. I can't listen to it. Please don't take it to heart. Since the Lu family went bankrupt, Lu Feifei has heard much more harsh words than this. She was angry not because the words were harsh, but because the person who said them was her second aunt. It's okay, Cece, I don't mind it. She was as generous and calm as ever, and on the surface she looked as calm as water. Lu Cece then apologized to Lin Zixuan. Mr. Lin, I'm sorry. My parents were watching me just now, so I just picked up some food for you. Please don't take it to heart. Lin Zixuan didn't take it seriously. It's just a small matter. My parents forced me to meet the opposite sex and go on blind dates. I can understand that. Thank you. Lu Cece smiled. Next time I have a chance, I will treat you to a meal in private without letting my parents know. They're too annoying. Okay. Lu Cece glanced at him again and said hesitantly, Well, I still have something to say to Feifei alone. Then I'll wait in the car. After the car door closed, Lu Cece pulled Lu Feifei aside and said in a low voice, Feifei, why are you treating the young master like a driver? If someone doesn't know, they would think you are a couple. If this gets out, what those people say will be 100 times more unpleasant than what my mother says. Lu Feifei said helplessly. I also know that he is the eldest master, and now he has returned to Beijing. There is no need for him to revolve around me anymore, but he won't listen, and I can't do anything about it. That must be because you didn't refuse hard enough. I can't say something unpleasant to hurt him, right? After all, when they were abroad, Lin Zixuan treated her like a lifesaver. If she really did that, she would be a heartless person. Lu Cece thought for a moment and said, My suggestion is to buy a car yourself. Then he won't have any chance, right? I have considered it, but I don't have much money right now. I want to save up and buy a house. She already thought about it. If she could successfully find her father, she would buy a house in Beijing, bring her daughter back, and live a peaceful life. Lu Cece was afraid that she would reveal her flaws if she said too much, so she added, Okay then, you can judge your own affairs yourself. By the way, I will find a chance to ask my dad about the bankruptcy of my uncle's company. Don't worry, leave it to me. Chapter 30, Entering her house openly. Lu Feifei's eyes suddenly lit up. Thank you, Cece. You go back first, bye. Second aunt stood at the door and took a look. She was extremely jealous and muttered, The only thing that is missing from my Cece is that she doesn't have that little bitch Lu Feifei who seduces men. He looked down and saw the gift Lu Feifei bought on the ground. He kicked it with a look of contempt. What kind of supplement did you buy? Are you trying to get rid of a beggar? Then call the servant over. Ma'am, what do you want? I heard that you have a few Landers pigs in your hometown, right? Feed these to your pigs. On the way back, Lu Feifei seemed to want to say something, but stopped herself several times. Lin Zixuan sighed. Feifei, just say whatever you want to say. I'm listening. Lu Feifei lowered her head and whispered, Second Dan is right. I am an unclean woman. I even gave birth to a child. So, Zixuan, you shouldn't waste your time on me. You deserve better. Lin Zixuan suddenly became angry. Feifei, you are willing to say these things to get rid of me, right? You didn't do those things voluntarily, so what right do you have to say that about yourself? Besides, I don't care about these things at all. As long as I can be with you, even if we are just ordinary friends, I will be content. He was very emotional and spoke a lot in one breath. Lu Feifei hurriedly said, Okay, Zixuan, I won't say anything more. Don't be angry. Don't ever tell anyone about it again. Lu Feifei remained silent, with her head down in a daze. Her parents taught her many skills since she was young. She can draw, write, sing, dance, and play the piano. She is a little princess that everyone envies. But no one had ever taught her how to handle interpersonal relationships. This relationship really made her tired. After taking a shower and lying down, Lu Feifei quickly fell asleep. An hour later, a group of people appeared outside the door. For bodyguards, an assistant, and a cold and noble man. The bodyguard took the jammer in his hand and placed it on the smart lock, which soon opened with a ding sound. Jitao pushed the door open and walked in without making any sound, as if entering Lu Feifei's room. The room was pitch black, with only a ray of silvery moonlight shining in through the gap in the curtains. He placed the lit incense on the bedside table. There are some things added to the aromatherapy that can help people sleep more soundly and not wake up even if there is thunder or an earthquake. Jitao pulled a chair, sat beside the bed, and looked at her quietly. He had good eyesight and could see her face clearly in the cold moonlight. She was still the same as before. Time had not left any traces on her face. She was as beautiful as before. Even just one look at her made his heart beat faster. Jitao hadn't felt such a fast heartbeat for a long time, and he felt like he was reborn. There was some noise coming from outside, and it seemed to be Lin Zixuan's voice. Let me in. Feifei, Feifei. On the way back, Lin Zixuan found that there was a Rolls-Royce following him. He thought it was okay as long as they got to the residential area, but he didn't expect that this person would openly break the door lock and get in. Jitao walked out with a sinister look on his face, and his black eyes were as sharp as an eagle. Lin Zixuan was held by two strong bodyguards and couldn't break free at all. Seeing Jitao, he struggled hard and cursed. What did you do to Feifei? You bastard. A rat living in the dark. Jitao stretched out his long legs, walked up to him, slowly rolled up his sleeves, and moved his wrists, making a clicking sound. Then he punched him hard in the stomach. Chapter 31, I like to use the power of the many to bully the few. I used all my strength in this punch. Lin Zixuan felt pain. His facial features became distorted. He spat out a mouthful of sour water, looking extremely miserable. He endured the pain and said, If you have the guts, let me go, and we'll have a fight. What kind of skill is it for a large group to bully a small group? Jitao chuckled disdainfully and said nonchalantly, I just like to use my numbers to bully the few. You. Lin Zixuan was extremely angry. Shameless. Thank you for the compliment, Master Lin. Jitao's tone was casual, mixed with a bit of danger. Stay away from my baby in the future, otherwise it won't be as simple as a punch. Your baby? Bah! How shameless! As soon as he finished speaking, Jitao punched down again. His eyes were fierce, and the strength in his hands did not decrease at all. Lin Zixuan's expression was even more painful than before. Jitao moved his wrist and said in a cold voice, Don't think I dare not touch the Lin family. The Ji family rose to prominence under the leadership of Jitao's father, and is now the most powerful family in Beijing. But decades ago, the Lin family was the richest family and was once very prosperous. After the rise of the Ji family, the Lin family chose to lie dormant. It was unclear how much strength they had, and the two families maintained superficial harmony. But they knew in their hearts that they were both waiting for the right opportunity to kill each other. Jitao not to touch the Lin family, But if he wants to, he will do it to the end even if both sides will suffer losses. He is absolutely crazy. Lin Zixuan suddenly became like a deflated ball and whispered, "Let the Lin family go, let my family go." What he feels most sorry for now is his family. After staying abroad for several years, he didn't help at all at home. If he brings trouble to his family because of this, he would be a sinner. When I returned to the room, Lu Feifei was sleeping more soundly than before and even making a slight huffling sound like a kitten. Ji Tao took the antidote in advance, and aromatherapy had no effect on him. He lifted the quilt and held Lu Feifei in his arms. Her body was soft, and the faint sweet scent of shower gel penetrated Ji Tao's nose. He could hardly control himself. His thin lips were pursed into a straight line, and his Adam's apple rolled. The hot kiss fell from her forehead, along the bridge of her nose to her red lips, lingering on her soft lips, then to her chin, neck, and all the way down. Ji Tao kissed her all over, his dense kisses covering every inch of her skin, and the air around them became hot and ambiguous. He just felt his body burning hot, and a certain impulse could no longer be suppressed, so he hurried into the bathroom. When I came out again, there was a bunch of tissues in the trash can. In the second half of the night, Ji Tao gradually calmed down and observed the layout of Lu Feifei's bedroom. There is a large wardrobe next to the bed and a transparent display cabinet next to the bed, which contains some cute figures and dolls. There is a desk by the window with a laptop on it. This should be where she works. There was a bookshelf next to it with many books. Ji Tao picked out a book written by Lu Feifei, titled Hidden Evidence, under the pen name Bitter Almond. Ji Tao saw the pen name. He suddenly smiled. Bitter almonds are a traditional Chinese medicine, but if taken in excessive doses, they can become a deadly poison, just like her. Ji Tao opened the first page of the book and was shocked to see that the deceased's name was Ji Hejio, and that he died in a tragic way. While alive, his scalp was peeled off, his fingernails, toenails, and teeth were pulled out, and he died in agony. After death, his body was dismembered. Chapter 32, The Deceased Ji Hejio. Ji Tao's face darkened visibly. She was smart enough not to write his name directly, but to use a homophone. After all, the name Ji Tao was well known, and few people in country Z didn't know it. If it were someone else, they might not think much about it, but Ji Tao knew in his heart that Lu Feifei must have put him into the story when she was writing. He didn't believe it and changed to another one. There is still a dead person named Ji Heji in this book. Ji Tao's face was gloomy, and he quickly flipped through all her works. Without exception, there is a dead person named Ji Heji in every book, and each of them died a very tragic death. Ji Tao even began to suspect that she chose to write a suspenseful detective novel in order to kill him. Several bodyguards outside the door were taking a nap, some sleeping on the sofa, some lying directly on the ground, and some leaning against the wall. Jilan was no exception. Suddenly, a loud bang woke him up from his sleep. When Jilan looked up, she saw Ji Tao's gloomy face. He was so frightened that his heart trembled and his sleepiness disappeared instantly. He immediately woke up the bodyguards. Ji Tao grabbed the collar of the bodyguard sleeping on the sofa and said viciously, "Who told you to touch my precious sofa? It's so dirty." "Yes, I'm sorry, Master Jio," Ji Tao sneered. "If you like sleeping so much, then don't wake up forever." No, Master Jio, I was wrong. Give me another chance." But his pleas for mercy were in vain, as he was taken away by the other two bodyguards. Jilan asked cautiously, "What happened?" "It's okay," Ji Tao said stubbornly. "Restore this place to its original state." Jilan moved quickly, tidied up the living room, and then went to the bedroom, only to find that the desk was in a mess and all the books written by Lu Feifei had been flipped through. He flipped it open and took a look and immediately understood why Ji Tao was angry and couldn't help laughing out loud. Afraid that Ji Tao might hear her, she immediately covered her mouth. 10 minutes later, Jilan had everything tidied up, just like when she came. When he walked out of the bedroom, he tried hard to hold back his smile, but Ji Tao still saw through it. "What are you laughing at?" He was very unhappy. "No, I'm not laughing." Jilan squeezed out a few words from her lips, not daring to make any big movements, for fear that her mouth would accidentally stretch to the back of her ears. "I am worthy of being written into the book by my baby. Can you?" "Zilan, why is he so proud?" He said quickly, "I definitely can't do that. Only a man like you, Jiu Yi, who is highly respected, has made great achievements, and is unprecedented in history, is worthy of being written into a book and passed down through the ages." Lu Feifei woke up. It was already 9 o'clock. The 8 o'clock alarm rang 5 times and then turned off automatically, but it failed to wake her up. Lu Feifei was a little surprised. She never slept so soundly. Maybe it was because of the dream she had at night. Those dreams were like vines that entangled her, and she couldn't wake up no matter what. It was as if she was under a curse, and her head was aching at the moment. She sat on the bed for a while, rubbed her temples, and went to the bathroom to wash up when she felt better. After washing up, I habitually cleaned the trash can in the bathroom and replaced the trash bag with a new one. When she came out again, she was sober and suddenly felt that the smell in the room was a bit strange. There's a faint fragrance spreading. Chapter 33, Raising the Price. Lu Feifei had a pretty sensitive nose. She remembered that she had never sprayed perfume, and her perfume didn't have this scent. She walked a few steps forward following the smell, and suddenly looked up to find that the white rose she had placed on the table had bloomed. The roses were cut flowers bought online. They were still buds when delivered. After being kept in water for a day, they had already bloomed. Each flower was delicate and pure. Afternoon. Lu Feifei made a cup of coffee and sat at her desk to work. I can see the scenery outside when I look up, and I feel very good. I finished my last book several months ago, but I haven't had the inspiration to write a new one. After returning to Beijing these days, I changed to a new environment and inspiration came pouring out like water. My fingers flew quickly on the keyboard, and before I knew it, several hours had passed. My thoughts were interrupted by the ringing of my cell phone. When she saw the number, it was the private detective she had saved before, so Lu Feifei answered it immediately. Miss Lu, I have found the clues, but if you want it, it depends on how sincere you are. It's just money. I'll transfer the 30,000 we agreed on to you now. No, no, no. The private detective interrupted her. It's not 30,000, it's 500,000. What? Lu Feifei was shocked. What do you mean? Are you asking for a higher price? The private detective laughed. What do you mean by raising the price? We agreed before that it was 500,000. I think you're confused, Miss Lu. Think about it carefully again. Don't go too far. If you do this, you're cutting off your own escape route. Who will dare to look for you in the future? The private detective sighed and said, Don't worry about my future, Miss Lu. As for you, give me the money quickly so I can send you the photos and other things. You took a picture of my dad? Lu Feifei was surprised and happy. I think so. I don't know him very well. Let me see. Lu Feifei became excited. My father is still alive, right? He is in Jing City, right? I can't reveal this now until the money arrives. How about 300,000? Lu Feifei's tone softened. I only have 300,000 now. This is all her savings. The private detective suddenly laughed. That shouldn't be the case. You are Miss Lu. As the saying goes, a lean camel is bigger than a horse. How could you only have 300,000? Besides, don't you have young Master Lin by your side, who acts as your ATM? Lin Zixuan is not short of money. If Lu Feifei asked him, he would agree without hesitation, but Lu Feifei doesn't want to owe him more. After a moment of silence, she whispered, Give me some time. I'll think of a solution. Okay, 2 days, just 2 days. Otherwise, I will destroy everything. After hanging up the phone, Lu Feifei called Yangtian Film and Television. The film and television rights of the new book have been sold to this company. The contract has been signed, but the copyright fee will not be credited to the account for another 3 days. Lu Feifei chatted with the other party's person in charge on the phone for a while, only to find out that a big-budget TV series invested by the company had not yet received payment, so there was no money for the time being, let alone advance payment to her. Judging from the current situation, the copyright fee is expected to be postponed for half a month to 1 month. Lu Feifei felt hopeless. If you don't have money, then you can only ask Lin Zixuan for money. But when I thought about how I already owed him a lot, I felt extremely guilty and couldn't ask him for help anymore, so I quickly gave up the idea. After some struggles, Lu Feifei's good mood disappeared, and she had no intention of writing anymore. It was around 7 in the evening. After a quick dinner, I was planning to look for Lu Cici for help when I suddenly received a phone call from an unfamiliar number. The number looks more and more familiar. Isn't this Jitao's cell phone number? Chapter 34, baby. Come to see me at Tinyu Villa. Thinking of that name and that person, Lu Feifei felt a dull pain in her heart and was very repulsive. But the cell phone keeps ringing, which is really annoying. Helplessly, Lu Feifei answered the call. She didn't speak. Tao's voice sounded playful and evil, baby. Hearing these 2 words, Lu Feifei felt a chill all over her body. Who is your baby? Stop yelling. We are no longer related. She reacted strongly, but Ji Tao didn't care much. He said leisurely, anyway, it will happen sooner or later. He was like a ghost that lingered around. Lu Feifei was very angry and said unhappily, if you have something to say, just say it. If not, just hang up. Baby, are you short of money? Ji Tao laughed softly from the tip of his nose. Say something nice and I'll help you, okay? Lu Feifei thought that laughter was mocking, and she subconsciously said, how can I be short of money? I know you're tough, baby, especially in bed. During those 2 years, they had made love countless times, and no matter how emotional she was, she always kept silent. The more she kept silent, the more Ji Tao liked to torment her in different ways, until she could no longer hold on and the sound escaped from her lips and teeth. Those shameful memories suddenly came to her mind. Lu Feifei's cheeks turned hot, and she felt even more panicked. Stop talking. Shut up. Baby, if you've made up your mind, come to Tingyu Villa to see me. On the way to Tingyu Villa, Lu Feifei had already figured everything out. On one hand, private detectives are raising their prices, and on the other hand, the copyright fees are being postponed. How could such a coincidence happen? It must be Ji Tao who is behind this. This man is still as bad as ever. Because Ji Tao had given notice in advance, Lu Feifei had smooth access to Tingyu Villa. However, she found that the bodyguards and servants here had been replaced by a new group, and none of them were skilled. After entering the room, she started by saying, Ji Tao, we haven't seen each other for 4 years, and you still haven't made any progress. You don't think that I will beg you for this, do you? Ji Tao sat on the black leather sofa, leaned back, crossed his legs, and stretched his arms, just like a big boss. Looking at Lu Feifei, she looked like a ball of thorns with explosive hair standing on end. But Ji Tao was not afraid of pain. The more he was stabbed, the more he wanted to get closer. Come here. He waved and ordered. What exactly do you want? Lu Feifei stood still. Seeing this, Ji Tao walked over and hugged her. Let me go. Lu Feifei struggled and shouted. All the bodyguards and servants in the room retreated silently, not daring to even glance at him. Lu Feifei was thrown on the sofa, and Ji Tao approached her, wrapping her in his strong masculine scent. Ji Tao supported himself on the sofa with one hand and gently stroked her face with the other hand, whispering, Why do you get mad so easily? Don't touch me. Lu Feifei slapped his hand away. The cheeky touch felt so disgusting that all the pores on my body stood up. Don't move. Ji Tao's face looked a little dangerous. I can't guarantee that I won't eat you here. Lu Feifei's face turned pale, and she didn't know what to say. She just felt scared and terrified, and her heart was beating faster. Ji Tao suddenly laughed, leaned over, and gently kissed the tip of her nose with his thin lips. Don't be afraid. The big hand gently stroked her head, as if smoothing the fur of a pet. When can you say a few soft words to me? Baby, you have such a nice voice, and it must be even better when you act coquettishly. Not to mention 500,000. I can even give you my life. Chapter 35, The Mark My Baby Left on Me. Lu Feifei just felt it was ridiculous. She had no idea what this man was thinking. What do you mean? Ji Tao whispered in her ear. I want you to submit to me, baby. I want to keep you by my side forever. Can't you just let me go? I just slapped you and scolded your mother. I should be able to pay you back for all the suffering I've endured over the years, right? Do you still want to kill me? Lu Feifei really didn't understand what she should do to pay for her arrogance and domineering behavior in the past. Let me go. Ji Tao sneered, pointing his index finger at his heart. I am full of you here, but you want me to drive you out. Do you know how painful it is here? Lu Feifei, are you crazy? The person in front of me suddenly became ridiculous. Ji Tao really had her in his heart. Why would he not care about her mother's life or death? Lu Feifei's opinion. His words were hypocritical and extremely disgusting. I'm not crazy. Ji Tao gently stroked her cheek, his eyes full of madness. I just want to get you, want to monopolize you, want to keep you away from all the men in the world. You can only be mine. Get it? Never. Ji Tao snorted. Even if I can't get your heart, I'll always get your body, right? As the words fell, his kiss fell. His unique scent is strong and domineering. Lu Feifei struggled and screamed. Ji Tao held her hands and said in a deep voice, Baby, keep your voice down. Others will hear you. Lu Feifei was stunned and turned to look outside. The living room was surrounded by glass on 3 sides, and the servants and bodyguards were standing in the corridor outside. Although their backs were facing away, they could not help but hear it. "Then don't touch me." Lu Feifei lowered her voice. Seeing him back down so quickly, Ji Tao laughed silently. Lu Feifei's attempts to stop her were of no use. Under his provocation, her face soon turned red. They are too familiar with each other's bodies. You let me go? Let me go." Lu Feifei's voice was shaking. Ji Tao held her tightly and said softly, "I like the way you are moved by me." Lu Feifei was afraid that if this continued, she would be like a sheep falling into the tiger's mouth. She reached out, took the cup of water on the coffee table, and smashed it on Ji Tao's head without hesitation. The severe pain came instantly. The wound from the last beating had not healed yet and was hidden in the hair. After this blow, the wound was torn open again and blood immediately flowed out, some of which dripped onto the sofa and some onto Lu Feifei's face. Lu Feifei's eyes widened in fear. She pushed him away and ran away. The bodyguards outside rushed into the living room, and when they saw Ji Tao was injured, they all turned back to chase him. Ji Tao ordered, "Let her go." Jilan looked at his wound and made a tisk sound. "Master Jiao, you exercise regularly, and you are good at grappling and fighting. How could you be injured twice by a woman and in the same place?" "You know shit?" Ji Tao rolled his eyes in disdain. "This is the mark that the baby left on me." "Jilan, I really don't understand." Bodyguards. Lu Feifei returned home in a panic. She washed the blood off her face and only calmed down a little when she looked in the mirror. She actually injured Ji Tao again. That is the dreaded demon king Jiao Yi. After a while, her cell phone rang. It turned out to be an email from a private detective. The email contained photos, as well as the detailed location and time where the father appeared. Chapter 36, I Owe You Another Debt. Lu Feifei was a little confused. The things were sent to her before the money was received? Just when she was wondering, the private detective called her again. "Miss Lu, did you receive the email?" "Received," Lu Feifei replied. "Don't you want 500,000? I don't have that much right now." The private detective sneered. "Well, it's good to be good looking. You're lucky. Someone paid for you. Who is it? Think about it yourself." The private investigator hung up the phone. Lu Feifei didn't have the time to think so much. She sat on the sofa and studied the photos carefully. The photo was dark, and one could vaguely see the facial features, which looked old and haggard, but the eyes were exceptionally bright. Lu Feifei's tears welled up in her eyes, and she covered her mouth and cried out, "Dad, Dad." Tears fell on the screen. "Dad, you are in Jing City. Why don't you come to see me?" "Dad, have you encountered any difficulties, Dad?" Lu Feifei cried for a long time until she had no strength left and fell asleep on the sofa holding her phone. She was awakened by a knock on the door. Lin Zixuan stood outside the door and saw that her eyes were red and there were traces of tears on her face. He immediately felt distressed. "You're crying? What happened?" Lu Feifei shook her head. "It's okay." Then she thought of what the private detective had said, that someone had paid the money for her, and that person could not be anyone else except Lin Zixuan. "Zixuan, thank you for helping to pay the 500,000 yuan. I owe you another debt." "Ah?" Lin Zixuan was a little confused. What does 500,000 mean? He had just heard that Lu Feifei was being overcharged by a private detective, so he came to see her. From what she said, it seemed that someone had paid for her. Seeing that he didn't react properly, Lu Feifei continued to ask. The private detective found some clues, but he is so despicable that he asked for $500,000. "I just received an email from him saying that someone paid for me. Wasn't it you?" In an instant, the name that frightened countless people flashed through Lin Zixuan's mind, Ji Tao. If he really helped, and Lu Feifei knew about it, she would definitely be soft-hearted and the two of them would have conflicts again. Lin Zixuan didn't want this to happen, so he said, "Yes, it's me. I want to help you. I don't want to see you sad. Feifei, please don't feel indebted." Lu Feifei showed a beautiful smile. "But you still have to pay me back. I will transfer it to you when the copyright fee arrives." "Feifei, don't be polite to me. It's only 500,000. Lu Feifei's gloomy mood disappeared, and she smiled and said, "Yes, for Master Lin, 500,000 is nothing, but for an ordinary civilian like me, 500,000 is not a small amount." "No, you're not a commoner, Feifei. You're a little princess. She is so dazzling, so charming, and will always be a little princess forever." Lu Feifei sighed. Bankruptcy is bankruptcy. I have accepted the reality. Lin Zixuan felt distressed. Fei Fei, as long as I am here, I will not let you and Xiao Futi live a hard life. Thank you, Zixuan. I understand your feelings, but... Before she could finish her words, Lin Zixuan interrupted her. Okay, Fei Fei, I understand what you want to say, but I don't want to hear it. Don't say it again. It's already 1 in the morning. There was still no movement from the cell phone that Ji Tao had placed on the coffee table. Jilon wiped the sweat from his forehead. Master Jiao, Miss Lu has a kind personality. If she knew that you helped her, she would definitely be soft-hearted and contact you on her own initiative. Wait a little longer. Wait a little longer. Chapter 37, Don't Say Bad Things About My Baby. Ji Tao remained silent, but his expression became increasingly gloomy, and his eyes gradually became dangerous. Jilon felt as if a disaster was about to happen. Because of nervousness, the back of her clothes was soaked with sweat. I waited about half an hour. Still no movement. Master Jiao, maybe Miss Lu is so excited that she has forgotten about it. It's already this late. She must have gone to bed. How about you? Before he could finish his words, he heard a loud bang. Ji Tao smashed his cell phone. The phone screen was shattered like a spider web, and the body was also separated. Jilon looked at the phone on the ground, as if she saw her own fate. Don't give me these bad ideas in the future. Ji Tao stood up and looked down at him. The powerful pressure made him breathless. Otherwise, this is what will happen to you. He stepped on the already broken cell phone and crushed it hard, and it soon turned into a pile of pieces. Ji Lan's heart skipped a beat and she cried. I did this for Master Jiao, but I didn't expect that woman to be so heartless. Ji Tao paused, looked back at him, and said seriously, Don't say bad things about my baby. I'm sorry. I have no conscience. Jilon watched the big devil go upstairs. He knew in his heart that if he hadn't been his brother, he would have died long ago. It is true that living with the king is like living with a tiger. Lu Cece soon made another appointment with Lu Feifei for dinner. At 7 o'clock in the evening, we gathered back to the building. This restaurant does good business. The lobby on the first floor is full of people. Apart from that, the 3 floors above are all private rooms. Lu Cece booked a seat by the window. Although the lobby was a bit noisy, she could enjoy the night view. Lu Feifei arrived. She sent a message to Lu Cece. Cece, I'm here. How long will it take you? Sorry, Feifei. I got stuck in traffic. I guess I'll be late. Upstairs, box. Lu Cece was sitting on the sofa with a man in waiter's clothes standing next to her. She put down her phone and said, The people are already here, go ahead. The waiter held a tray and walked through the aisle, placing a glass of boiled water on Lu Feifei's table. Miss, your water. I didn't order anything to drink. Lu Cece was surprised. We're giving it away for free. Oh, thank you. Lu Feifei was a little thirsty, so she took 2 small sips. The waiter hiding in the dark watched her drink it with his own eyes and talked to Lu Cece through the Bluetooth headset. Sister Cece. She drank it. Lu Cece laughed. Wait until she faints, then take her away. Remember, make sure to take a video to capture her face. What the most beautiful woman in Beijing. Once those obscene videos spread out, she will be ruined and Lin Zixuan will abandon her. Clear. Lu Feifei drank a few sips of water. She felt her head was heavy and dizzy, as if she was about to fall asleep at any moment. She shook her head, picked up her phone, and prepared to call Lu Cece to ask her what time she would arrive. Before he could dial the phone, he suddenly fell headfirst into the booth, unconscious. Lu Feifei calmly helped her up and walked out the door. Lu Cece was watching from upstairs. When she saw them approaching the door, a sinister smile appeared on her face. After tonight, Lu Feifei will fall from the altar and become a slut that everyone despises. As she thought about this, she hurriedly left the box and went out the back door. No one must find out that she had been to Juhui building tonight, otherwise it would be easily exposed. Chapter 38, Blind Date. Lu Feifei was no longer conscious, and her whole body was leaning on the man. When they were almost at the door, the receptionist suddenly felt something was wrong and called them to stop. Gentlemen. The man paused, was stunned for 2 seconds, and suddenly quickened his pace. Sir, please stay. The receptionist quickly chased after him and stopped the man. What's the matter? The man asked unkindly. Do you know this lady? The receptionist looked at him. Because Lu Feifei was very good-looking, the receptionist took a few more glances at her when she came. She clearly remembered that Lu Feifei came alone. Of course, I'm her boyfriend. She just called me and asked me to pick her up. The man lied calmly. She's not feeling well. We need to go to the hospital now. Don't block my way. How about we call an ambulance for you? The receptionist said, glancing at Lu Feifei's face, who seemed to have fallen asleep. The man noticed it and quickly held down the back of Lu Feifei's head, pressing her face against his chest. No need. My car is downstairs. Don't waste my time. The receptionist hesitated, not knowing whether to give way. In this short while, it has attracted quite a few people to watch. What's going on? Why won't you let them go? We can't afford it if someone dies. I just saw this girl. She seems to be alone. How come she has a boyfriend? To be honest, this man looks quite suspicious. This girl seems to be unconscious. It would be safer to call an ambulance. You and I kept talking, which angered the man. He shouted, "Shut up! I've already told you this is my girlfriend. She has had poor health since she was a child. If anyone doesn't let me go and delays my girlfriend, I will kill him." After hearing this roar, those people were actually frightened. After all, everyone is afraid of causing trouble. Not far away, the little bean paste bun in the crowd was also joining in the fun. He saw Lu Feifei. He was completely stunned and his mouth opened into an O shape. After he realized what was happening, he ran upstairs with his short legs and ran back to the box. Seeing him coming back, GXIN said with a hint of blame, "This kid, you are running around again. Your uncle went out to look for you, and he hasn't come back yet." Dushabeo is a lively person and likes to run around everywhere, just like last time at the airport, and this time as well. He had only taken a few bites of his meal when Ju Huilu had already made him run back and forth several times. "I'm sorry, aunt." Dushabeo apologized quickly, then pulled Ji Tao's sleeve. "Dad, come out with me for a moment." Although he is not very old, he speaks in a very arrogant tone and even dares to order his father around. If it were any other day, Ji Tao would definitely be impatient, but today was different. Right now, there is something that makes him even more impatient: blind dates. Sitting opposite was the eldest daughter of the Gu group, Gu Yejin. Ji Tao had stood up his girlfriend twice in a row, and this time there was really no other way. So his elder sister GXIN used both coercion, inducement, and soft and hard tactics to pull him over. So Ji Tao brought his son along, thinking that the other party would dislike him because of this. Unexpectedly, the other party said, "It's good to have a child. I don't have to give birth to another one in the future. Dushabeo is my own child." At this moment, Ji Tao finally felt that his son had made some difference and followed him out of the box. Dushabeo said very seriously, "Dad, I just met a pretty girl downstairs. She was with another man, and she said he was her boyfriend." "Dad, you have to work hard to get the pretty girl." Chapter 39, Too Partial. Ji Tao's face was gloomy, and he walked downstairs quickly with his long legs. How could Dushabeo catch up with him with his short legs? He ran and shouted, "Dad, wait for me, wait for me." He didn't care about his son at all, and the tall figure quickly disappeared in the crowd. Dushabeo was running hard and happened to meet Ji Lan, who was looking for Dushabeo. He asked in confusion, "Dushabeo, what is your dad doing? He's in such a hurry." "Dad is going to help me get Mom back," Dushabeo said seriously. Ji Lan was surprised. Stealing people? It seems like something Ji Tao would do. When he found the person holding the red bean paste bun, Lu Feifei had already been rescued and Ji Tao was holding her horizontally. The man fell to the ground, wailing in pain. "Someone is being beaten. Someone is being beaten. Call the police quickly." The crowd watching was bewildered. Who is this again? So violent. He was so cruel, and he doesn't look like a good person. This girl is so pitiful. Dushabeo clapped and cheered. "Dad is awesome." Lu Feifei's sleeve again. "Mom? What's wrong with you, Mom?" "So they're a family. This little boy is so cute. It's good that you're all right. Let's go." The man lying on the ground saw that the crowd had dispersed and screamed, "If you hit me, I will call the police. You are finished." Ji Tao's eyes were cold, and he didn't even want to give the other person a glance. He just said to Ji Lan coldly, "Deal with it." Clear. Ji Tao held Lu Feifei in his arms and strode out of Juhui building. Red bean paste buns followed closely behind. Upstairs, Gu Yejin also left the box and saw everything in the hall. The hand that was holding the railing suddenly exerted a lot of strength, and the veins on the back of her hand bulged, and her eyes flickered with jealous anger. After a while, the eldest sister GXIN also came out. Gu Yejin was standing on the stairs in a daze and shouted, "Yejin, what's wrong?" It's okay." Gu Yejin turned around and looked at her. His eyes had returned to normal. "Why did Big Sister come out too?" "I don't know where Ji Tao is going. I came out to look for him. Have you seen him?" I just saw him leave. Gu Yezhin answered truthfully. And he was holding a woman. This. Ji Xian's face turned embarrassed, and then angry. You are really getting more and more unreasonable. Are you going against me? Gu Yezhin quickly comforted her. Big sister, don't be angry. Maybe Master Zhou really isn't interested in me, so let it go. No. Ji Xian interrupted her. Yezhin, I'll let you down this time. It's my fault. I will definitely scold him severely when I get back. I will definitely arrange your marriage with Ji Tao. This is not only about Gu Yezhin's happiness, but also about Ji Xian's status in the Ji family. This marriage must be made. Tingyu Villa. The warm and beautiful room is filled with a faint floral scent. The sleeping person's face is peaceful, like Sleeping Beauty. Ji Tao sat on the edge of the bed, gently holding Lu Feifei's hand. Dushabeo was also standing beside the bed, waiting for her to wake up. Another 10 minutes passed, and Ji Tao became impatient and looked up to ask Ji Yaoqing, why isn't she awake yet? How should I know? Ji Yaoqing crossed her arms across her chest and suddenly met Ji Tao's cold eyes. Realizing that her tone was not good, she quickly changed her words. 6, Grandpa. He should be waking up soon. This medicine doesn't last long. Ji Tao felt relieved and answered the phone. His face suddenly looked bad. I have something to take care of. Ao Qing, you take good care of her. I understand. Ji Yaoqing made an okay gesture. Ji Tao opened the door, suddenly turned his head, and said coldly, if I find out that she is missing a hair, you will be in trouble. Ji Yaoqing said nothing. She waited until the footsteps faded away before she muttered, you're too biased. After all, I'm your granddaughter. Chapter 40. Your father is Ji Tao? Ji Tao left. The person on the bed started to move. First, his fingers moved a few times, then his eyelids moved, and soon he opened his eyes. This room is exactly the same as it was 4 years ago. I thought for a moment that I was just dreaming, and that in fact, I had never escaped from this gorgeous birdcage. Sadness welled up in my heart, and my eyes became red. Dushabeo said in panic, beautiful sister, why are you crying? Please stop crying. Dushabeo will give you some candy. Hearing his sweet voice, Lu Feifei turned her head to look and saw that his chubby little hand was holding a candy, and he was trying hard to put it to her mouth. Some memories came up and gradually became clear. I'm fine. Thank you, Dushabeo. She smiled and slowly sat up. Then I realized a serious problem. Bean Pastebun, why are you here? This is my home. Dushabeo blinked. Isn't it big and beautiful? Do you like it here? Lu Feifei was stunned. Your father is Ji Tao? Dushabeo nodded. Yes, but others say he is not my real father. Lu Feifei frowned in confusion. Is he adopted? Why adopt a son? While she was daydreaming, Ji Yaoqing sent Dushabeo away, leaving only the two of them in the room. Lu Feifei, the most beautiful woman in Beijing, right? Ji Yaoqing looked at her with ill intent, sizing her up and down. Who are you? Lu Feifei met her gaze. Ji Yaoqing said, I am Jiu Ye's granddaughter, Ji Yaoqing. Lu Feifei was shocked by Ji Tao's seniority. He is worthy of being a grandfather at such a young age. Ji Yaoqing added, I really don't understand what drug you gave my 6th grandfather to make him so obsessed with you. I don't understand it myself. I hope he can stay away from me. Lu Feifei said this, throwing off the quilt and getting out of bed. Ji Yaoqing laughed and said, if it weren't for my 6th grandpa, you would have been raped by a strange man tonight. Lu Feifei was stunned for a moment before she remembered what happened that night. She was in the wrong, but she didn't argue. Seeing that she was about to leave, Ji Yaoqing stopped her and said, wait, you haven't finished talking yet. I have nothing to tell you. Lu Feifei had a cold attitude. She realized that the girl in front of her disliked her, so she didn't want to stay for long. But I want to tell you that my 6th grandfather stabbed himself in the stomach for you, in order to feel the pain you went through. While he was in the operating room, trying to save your life, you fled abroad. Lu Feifei suddenly thought of the scar she saw last time. Is that how it happened? It must be very painful to stab yourself in the stomach. How could he be so cruel? That cold and hard heart suddenly wavered a little. How stupid, Lu Feifei murmured. You are indeed stupid, Ji Yaoqing echoed. My 6th grandfather is so good, handsome and rich, and now he has adopted a son. In the future, my great-grandfather will give him the entire Ji family. You are not worthy of him at all. After saying this, Lu Feifei suddenly remembered the rumors she had heard before. According to rumors, Ji Yuankai, the head of the Ji family, was a playboy. He had countless women when he was young, four of whom gave birth to his children, and he had more than a dozen children. Ji Yuankai believed that having many children meant more blessings, and he loved his descendants very much. In the Ji family, having offspring is one of the means to fight for power. She suddenly understood why Ji Tao wanted to adopt a son. To him, children are just tools of struggle. Seeing that she didn't say anything, Ji Yaoqing was angry and said, "Six's grandfather is so good to you and has rejected countless women for you. But you hurt him again and again. He is really blinded by greed." Lu Feifei pursed her thin lips and said in a calm voice, "Didn't he hurt me?" Chapter 41. He didn't hit me for the third time because he felt sorry for me. Study. As always, the lights were not on. Ji Tao sat in front of the computer, the cold white light shining on his face, making his handsome features even more profound and three-dimensional. After several days of investigation, we finally got the results. Just now, he received an email from the other side of the ocean. Lu Feifei's daughter, whose real name is Lu Bailan, is nicknamed Xiao Futi. Xiao Futi was born in the autumn of the second year after Lu Feifei went abroad. Ji Tao once fantasized about whether it might be his own daughter. After all, she was pregnant with twins. But when he saw this result, he gave up. There were dozens of photos in the email. The little girl in the photo is lively and lovely and looks exactly like Lu Feifei and is as delicate as a doll. Some of the photos were taken now, and some were taken in the past. Some are photos of Xiao Futi alone, and some are of Lin Zixuan holding her with Lu Feifei watching beside. Some were Lu Feifei and Lin Zixuan, each holding one of Xiao Futi's hands. They look like a happy family of three. There was a blazing anger in Ji Tao's eyes. The violent factors in the blood are growing wildly. Has the urge to destroy everything. Bang! He smashed his laptop. Lu Feifei, who had just walked out of the door, was startled and began to hesitate. Ji Tao. She gently pushed open the door of the study. It was dark inside, and she could vaguely see a tall figure. She took 2 steps inside and fumbled on the wall. She didn't find the switch, but she felt a big cold hand. She was picked up and placed on the desk. The burning kiss covered her, as if he wanted to eat her alive. Lu Feifei turned her head away to avoid the kiss, and the kiss fell on her face. The frenzied atmosphere suddenly calmed down a bit, and Ji Tao hugged her tightly, sometimes kissing her cheeks and hair, and sometimes sucking her earlobe. Soft and dense, like ants, making people feel uncomfortable and scratchy. Ji Tao, don't be like this, Ji Tao. Lu Feifei's voice was soft, and her breathing was unstable. There is a fatal temptation when calling his name. Ji Tao's blood became even hotter, and he didn't stop, kissing her neck again. Don't be like this, Ji Tao. If you do this again, I'm going to beat you again. Lu Feifei's voice was soft and had no deterrent power at all. Her body was shaking constantly like a broken doll. Ji Tao stopped and held her in his arms, his face against hers, his hot breath spraying into her ears. He grabbed one of Lu Feifei's hands and placed it on his head. The injury from last time hasn't healed yet. Why don't you fight again? What are you doing? Lu Feifei immediately retracted her hand, not daring to touch his wound for fear of hurting him. Heh, Ji Tao chuckled. Are you feeling sorry for me? Lu Feifei. Can you please stop being so narcissistic? If I felt sorry for you, I wouldn't hit you twice. You didn't hit me a third time because you felt sorry for me. Lu Feifei. Speechless. I am speechless. It was dark and quiet all around, and they could hear each other's heartbeats clearly. Why are you so stupid? Lu Feifei raised her hand and gently covered his abdomen. Why did you stab yourself? She still thinks this behavior is crazy. But when I think about the fact that the person who did this was Ji Tao, it seems reasonable. Ji Tao was delighted and said more confidently, You just feel sorry for me. Lu Feifei was speechless. Just as she was about to pull her hand back, Ji Tao grabbed her wrist and put it into his shirt, covering his scar. The scar is 10 centimeters long and has an uneven surface. Just by touching it gently, Lu Feifei felt goosebumps all over her body. He must have been in a lot of pain at that time. If it weren't for this injury, you wouldn't have been able to escape. Ji Tao said fiercely, But you're back again. Honey, I won't let you run away this time. Chapter 42. Don't be with other men anymore. After he was injured that year, he fell into a coma due to excessive blood loss and was sent to the emergency room. The bodyguards under his command were in panic, thinking that he was being assassinated. Some of them stayed outside his emergency room, while others tracked down the assassin. Therefore, only one person was left to guard Lu Feifei, giving her a chance to escape. Lu Feifei felt scared when she heard his voice, fearing that he would imprison her again. But you promised me that you would give me freedom. Oh. Ji Tao just sneered and didn't want to say more. He had prepared a house, a car, and a lot of cash for Lu Feifei, so that she could have a good life even if she left him. But she just left without saying a word. Not only did she leave, she also went to a foreign country to suffer and had a child with another man. He placed his hands on Lu Feifei's slender neck and stared into her eyes in the darkness. Why do you want to have a baby with Lin Zixuan? As his voice increased, the strength in his hands also increased. Lu Feifei's heart trembled. Did he find out that it was Xiao Futi? Although she protected Xiao Futi very well and had deliberately erased some information, it was normal for him to find out. Ji Tao, a man with great connections. Will he stab you in the stomach for that too? Huh. The ending tone rises, and the dangerous atmosphere is gradually rising. Lu Feifei clenched her fists, her firm while supporting her. No matter what, he would never tell him Xiao Futi's true identity. She would not let her daughter become a tool of the Ji family's struggle. Don't ask so many questions. Because he felt guilty, he subconsciously turned his face cold and pushed Ji Tao, which angered him. Why? Ji Tao pressed the issue again. The force on his hands increased a little bit. Lu Feifei felt difficulty breathing, and her neck felt like it was going to break. She opened her mouth, but no sound came out, and her legs kicked around. When she felt she was about to suffocate to death, Ji Tao suddenly let her go. Before she could even catch her breath, she was grabbed into the man's arms again. Promise me that you won't be with other men again. As long as you promise me, I can give you anything. He was clearly a demon who wanted to kill people in the previous second, but at this moment, he became extremely humble. Such a huge contrast made Lu Feifei feel insecure. She didn't know when Ji Tao would go crazy, nor did she know when he would return to normal. Let me go. The tone was cold and hard, implying an order. Ji Tao was furious. Even though he begged her so humbly, she still wanted to leave. Just as he was about to get angry, a little ball suddenly appeared at the door. The small figure looked into the dark study room and asked in confusion, "Dad, are you there? My beautiful sister is gone." Ji Tao looked towards the door. During this brief moment of relaxation, Lu Feifei broke free from his grip and rushed out. Dushabeo felt that a familiar figure ran away. So the beautiful sister is here. Ji Tao said unhappily, "It's so late, go to bed." Dushabeo nodded obediently. "Okay, Dad, you should go to bed early too. Good night, Dad." Lu Feifei left Tingyu Villa. It is 11 o'clock at night. She hurriedly called Lin Zixuan. Zixuan, he found out that it was Xiao Futi. What should we do? In order to conceal Xiao Futi's true identity, she changed her date of birth, but she was afraid of being discovered. If Xiao Futi's identity is discovered, she will definitely become Ji Tao's tool to fight for power in the Ji family. Chapter 43, even the dog is disgusted. Lin Zixuan was stunned for a moment, then immediately calmed down. Fei, those things are very confidential and won't be found out, don't worry. I hope so, Lu Feifei said in a low voice, still worried. Lin Zixuan asked again, "Are you okay now? Where are you? Send me your location and I'll pick you up." "No need. I just left you Villa. I can just take a taxi back." "It's so late, it's not safe for you to take a taxi. I'd better pick you up. Besides, it's not easy to get a taxi there." Watercolor blooms. This is the club with the best business in Beijing. People who come here are from all walks of life, from gangsters to billionaires. You can see them all here. The club is divided into 3 levels. Floors 1 to 8 accommodate ordinary people. Floors 9 to 20 are for ordinary wealthy people, and floors 21 to 25 only accommodate top wealthy people. There were a lot of people coming and going in the lobby, a mixed crowd. There are drunkards who take the opportunity to tease women when they are drunk. There are men and women who can't wait to perform on the spot. And there are sexy women who stick to men. Lu Feifei stood in front of the counter at the front desk and took out a photo of her father. "Hello, have you seen this person?" According to the information provided by the private detective, her father was photographed at the back door of the club, so she inferred that her father must have appeared here. The receptionist shook his head. "I haven't seen it. Think about it carefully. He should have been here." Lu Feifei didn't want to give up. "Or, what about your colleagues? Has anyone seen him? Can you help me ask? This is very important to me. I've already told you I've never seen him." The receptionist became impatient. "We have tens of thousands of people coming and going here every day. Who would remember?" "Okay." Lu Feifei looked disappointed, lowered her eyes, and spoke in a lower voice. I'll ask someone else. She was pretty, but at the moment she looked pitiful, and anyone who saw her would feel sorry for her. The receptionist looked at her twice and couldn't bear it. How about I ask our manager for you? Thanks. The lobby manager came soon. He was a middle-aged man with a big belly. He was not tall and was covered in fat and looked very greasy. Hey, isn't this Miss Liu? Do you know me? Lu Feifei suddenly became happy. We met once. Lu Feifei's appearance. You will never forget it, even if many years have passed. The lobby manager glanced at her with a lecherous look. What's the matter? Can't make ends meet. So you want to come to our club to beg for food? With Miss Lu's looks, you will definitely be able to. Lu Feifei interrupted him hastily. No, you misunderstood. Her face turned red because of his few words. I just want to know if you have ever seen this person? Taking out the photo again, the lobby manager stared at it for a few seconds and then shook his head. No impresión. Well, excuse me for bothering you. Lu Feifei was about to leave when the lobby manager suddenly called her again. Miss Lu, if you are willing to humble yourself and serve me well, maybe I can remember it. Don't dream about it. Lu Feifei turned around and looked at him coldly. Even though the Lu family has gone bankrupt, her eyes are still the same as before, cold and arrogant. You look so fat and big-eared that even dogs would feel sick. The contemptuous look angered the lobby manager. I asked you to accompany me. That's giving you face. The lobby manager roared and raised his hand to hit her. The moment the slap fell, a figure suddenly blocked Lu Feifei's way and grabbed the sturdy wrist. Chapter 44. Come sit next to me. Jilon secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, he arrived in time and did not hit Lu Feifei. Otherwise, if Jiuyi found out, he would be the one in trouble. The lobby manager was also very surprised to see him. Mr. Ji? Jilon said coldly. Miss Lu is not someone you can touch. Get out of here. I'm sorry, I didn't expect it was young Master Ji's man. I'm sorry. The lobby manager stepped back while apologizing. Jilon turned around and looked at Lu Feifei. It was his first time to come into close contact with Lu Feifei, and he had to say that she was really beautiful, with fair skin, delicate features, and no flaws at all. Her temperament was so clean and pure that no one dared to defile it. Miss Lu, Master Jio is waiting for you upstairs. Him? Lu Feifei asked in confusion. Jilon walked in front to lead the way. Master Jio just found some new clues. Maybe you will be interested. Is it about my dad? You'll know when you get there. There were only two of them in the elevator, and Jilon glanced at her sideways. He smiled and said, Miss Lu may not know me very well. Let me introduce myself. My name is Jilon, and I am also a member of the Ji family. According to seniority, I should be Jiu Ye's brother. But now, I am just a worker. Thank you for just now. You're too polite. This is my job. Besides, if you get beaten, Master Jiu won't let me go. Soon we reach the 25th floor. The decoration style here is antique. The walls of the corridor are painted vermilion. The names of the boxes on both sides are named after ancient palaces. Some are called Jingren Palace and some are called Zichen Hall. Walking through the corridors, it feels like walking in the eternal alleys of the Imperial Palace. Soon they stopped in front of a box called Yangxin Palace. Ms. Lu, please. Jilon pushed open the door. The box was very large. After passing through layers of partitions and reaching the innermost part, I saw Ji Tao sitting on the sofa, looking lazy and casual. When he saw Lu Feifei coming, he patted the seat next to him and said, Come and sit down. Lu Feifei stood still and whispered, Master Jio, I'll just stand there. It was not pleasant to hear her call him Master Jio. I felt more comfortable when she called him by his full name. Why? What's wrong with you? Lu Feifei said seriously. I'm not angry with Master Jio. If Master Jio has any clues about my father, please tell me the truth. If not, I'll leave first. Ji Tao's face turned cold. I asked you to sit over here, but you didn't even want to know the clues I have? Lu Feifei's legs felt like they were filled with lead, and she couldn't take a step. If she were asked to beg, perhaps she could say it, but it is really impossible to ask her to accompany others on her own initiative. Just as she was hesitating, the door of the box was pushed open and a hot woman walked in. The woman was wearing a black tight skirt that outlined an exaggerated S-curve. The skirt was very short and twisted as she walked, as if she would be exposed if she wasn't careful. There was a layer of sequins sewn on the chest of the skirt. As she walked, the sequins swayed and flashed different lights. This is the top card of Aqua Bloom Ruth. I heard that Master Joe came and ordered a lot of good wine. but he didn't order anyone to drink with him. Does he think our girls are not good enough? Ruth seemed not to see Lu Feifei. She walked past her and sat next to Ji Tao. Ji Tao raised his eyes quietly and observed Lu Feifei's expression. She was still as cold as usual, and she couldn't help feeling unhappy and snorted. The quality of women with aquacolor blooming has indeed declined a lot. Chapter 45. You dirty her shoes. Lu Feifei suddenly frowned. From what Ji Tao said, it seems that he comes here often. Ruth smiled apologetically. I think Master Gio has high standards. You are the only one who catches my eye. Ji Tao spoke without any sincerity, and he was always looking at Lu Feifei out of the corner of his eye. But for Ruth, she was in the middle of the game and couldn't tell the truth from the false. She just felt ecstatic when she heard this. Master Gio, you're so kind. If Master Gio doesn't mind, let me serve you. As Ruth spoke, she took a goblet, poured some red wine, shook it gently to let the aroma of the wine fully release, and then handed it to Ji Tao's lips. Ji Tao didn't drink the wine she gave him, so Ruth smiled and took a sip first. Master Gio, this wine is really delicious, but I taste better. Would you like to try it? Under the ambiguous light, she leaned on Ji Tao's shoulder, and the fullness that was about to burst out could be seen as long as he lowered his head. Lu Feifei was so angry that she clenched her fists and her nails were about to dig into the flesh. He raised his voice and said, Since Master Gio has something important to do, I won't bother you anymore. As soon as I turned around, I heard Ruth's sarcastic voice. Who is it? You're talking so loudly and have no manners at all. You are disturbing Master Gio's interest. Do you know that? Ruth raised her face, full of mockery. Isn't she the most beautiful woman in Beijing? Oh, I didn't notice it just now, sorry. Miss Lu wanted to please Master Gio, but I got the upper hand instead? I'm so sorry. Maybe my figure is a little more plump than yours and Master Gio likes me like this. After he finished speaking, Ji Tao suddenly kicked her away and ordered, Apologize. He was so strong that Ruth fell to the ground, and the wine soaked her skirt. Ah! He raised his head and looked blankly at the violent man in front of him. She had no idea what she had said was wrong. Apologize to her? Ji Tao spoke again, and his furious voice made Ruth tremble all over. To whom? Ruth was confused. Lu Feifei? But I didn't say anything wrong. Master Gio, why are you? Before he could finish his words, Ji Tao suddenly picked up the ashtray on the coffee table and smashed it on Ruth's head with a bang. Ruth was stunned for a few seconds, blood running down her cheeks and dripping onto her chest. The pain made her unable to think, and Ji Tao's angry voice was in her ears. Apologize to Lu Feifei, kneel down. Yes. Ruth was so frightened that she lost her soul and did not dare to get up. She crawled to Lu Feifei's feet, hugged her ankles, and kowtowed. I'm sorry, Miss Lu. I'm sorry, I was wrong. I was really wrong. Ji Tao yelled. You've soiled her shoes. He was furious, grabbed Ruth's hair, and kicked her away. Ruth didn't dare to cry out in pain, and quickly knelt down and kowtowed to him. I'm sorry, Master Gio, I'm sorry. Oh! It was as if he had received a special pardon, and he crawled out. Ji Tao squatted on the ground and wiped the blood stains off Lu Feifei's shoes with a tissue. His movements were careful and serious, without his usual arrogant and noble temperament. Instead, he looked like a servant. In this world, only Lu Feifei can make him do this. Lu Feifei took a step back and said disdainfully, It's dirty, so it's dirty. Even if you wipe it clean, it's still disgusting. Baby is right. Ji Tao stood up, held her in his arms, and sat on the sofa, took off her shoes, and threw them into the trash can. Just buy a new one. Chapter 46. Baby, kiss me. People are the same. Lu Feifei pushed Ji Tao away. It stinks. He was full of Ruth's perfume, which was extremely pungent. Ji Tao smiled and took off his shirt and threw it away, revealing his strong body. Attractive 8-pack abs, smooth muscle lines, and not a trace of excess fat. He leaned over and hugged Lu Feifei tightly. Baby, is this okay? You should put it on? Lu Feifei's face turned a little red, and her eyes always glanced at him inadvertently. Well, it's all because he has such a great and attractive body. Seeing her sneakily peeking, she was so adorable that Ji Tao bent down and kissed her cheek. Suddenly I noticed that there were nail marks on the palms of her hands, on both hands. Lu Feifei was so angry just now that the mark hasn't disappeared yet. Noticing his gaze, Lu Feifei immediately put her hands behind her back and asked, What are you looking at? Is this jealousy for me? Who's jealous of you? Stop being so narcissistic. I just feel sick looking at you. Ji Tao put his arms around her back, held her hands, and held them up to his eyes full of heartache. He gently rubbed the nail marks until they disappeared, then bent down and kissed her palm. She said distressedly, "If you think I'm bad, you can scold me and beat me, but you can't hurt yourself. It has nothing to do with you," Lu Feifei said unhappily. Then he added, "Didn't you say you had a clue? Where is the clue? Kiss me, and I'll tell you." Ji Tao sat next to her, his arms around her soft waist, his chin resting on her shoulder, looking at her profile. "Don't go too far." Lu Feifei frowned and nudged him with her elbow. "Baby, give me a kiss. Just for a moment, okay?" The voice was low and hoarse, with a hint of coaxing and pleading. Lu Feifei's heart was pounding. In order to hide her true emotions, she glared, Ji Tao. Seeing that she was furious, Ji Tao decided to stop while he was ahead. Okay, no kiss, I'll just kiss you." While she wasn't paying attention, Ji Tao made another baji sound. "You're so annoying." It's anger out of shame, but also like being a spoiled child. Lu Feifei glared at him. But before she could get angry, Ji Tao had already taken out what she wanted. These are 3 photos taken at different times. Lu Feifei picked it up and took a look and was sure that the person in the photo was her father. Ji Tao continued. All the photos were taken near the club. The photos were taken on the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th of this month, for 3 consecutive days. But why didn't he show up? Lu Feifei didn't understand. Since her father was in Beijing, why didn't he come to see her? Ji Tao shook his head. "I inferred that my father-in-law was waiting for someone. Either he found the person or something else happened, so he never showed up again." "Who is your father-in-law?" Lu Feifei was angry. Why did this guy take advantage of her whenever he got the chance? Ji Tao smiled and said, "That's not the point." Lu Feifei took the photo and looked at it carefully several times. There were too few clues, and she couldn't find anything. "Can I have these photos?" Ji Tao nodded. "Baby has asked for it, so there is no reason not to give it to him." "Thanks." Lu Feifei put the photos into her bag. Jilan just happened to come back from buying shoes and brought them to the box. Ji Tao took it and opened the shoe box, revealing a pair of beautiful black Mary Jane leather shoes. He squatted at Lu Feifei's feet, holding her shoe in one hand and holding her slender ankle with the other. Chapter 47 deliberately angry him. Ji Tao lowered his eyes and helped her put on her shoes carefully and seriously. He no longer had his usual eccentric look, but instead looked like a devout believer. Jilan, who was standing by, was used to the big world and had a calm look. Ji Tao kissed Lu Feifei's feet now. He would not be surprised. After changing her shoes, Lu Feifei stood up and took 2 steps, then said with a smile, "The shoes that Master Ji bought are very suitable. Thank you." Ji Tao's face darkened and he said unhappily, "I asked him to buy it, and it was my money." Jilan was afraid of death and hurriedly explained. "Miss Lu misunderstood. The brand and size were all told to me by Master Jio. I don't know your preference." Her preferences, her clothes, shoes, and even the size of her underwear have long been engraved in Ji Tao's heart. Ji Tao looked like he was asking for praise. Lu Feifei didn't even glance at Jilan and continued to praise Jilan. "Then you have a good taste. The style is very beautiful." "Ji Tao, you're doing this on purpose to make him angry." Jilan wiped the sweat from her forehead and thought to herself, "Miss, if you want to deliberately anger Master Jio, don't drag me into this." After returning home, Lu Feifei looked at the photo over and over again, using a magnifying glass to look for details, but found nothing. "My father used to be a gentleman with a refined demeanor. Although he was a businessman, he was not profit-driven or blinded by greed. The face in the photo now looks old, with many wrinkles on the skin, and it has become much darker and thinner. It does not have the charm of the past at all." Lu Feifei looked at the photo, the sadder she felt, and her tears fell on it. Afraid of dirtying the photo, I immediately wiped it off with a tissue and didn't dare cry anymore. I took out my cell phone and dialed the number my father used before, but it was still turned off. She had called this number countless times over the years, and it was the same every time. But that's not a bad thing. The phone was turned off, but it was not out of service, nor was it an empty number. This meant that someone had been paying the bill for this number, and perhaps someone would occasionally use it, but she just called at the wrong time. A cafe near Lin's house. Lu Feifei arrived first and was led into the box by the waiter. Lin Zixuan's parents were sitting in the box. Lin's mother is well-maintained and looks very young. She is a little plump, which makes her look more wealthy and kind. Father Lin is an experienced businessman with a wise vision. At first glance, he looks like a shrewd and calculating man. Ms. Lu, you're here? Mother Lin smiled and asked her to sit opposite her. Lu Feifei felt a little embarrassed and said, I'm sorry to have kept you waiting for so long. We just arrived too, Mother Lin said, looking at Father Lin, and then said, then we won't be polite, let's get straight to the point. Lu Feifei had already prepared herself mentally and nodded. Uncle and aunt, just tell me what you want to say. It's like this. Zishuan has been abroad for the past few years. He did it for you. We all know that. When Lin's mother spoke, she no longer looked kind, but rather had a bit more fierceness. We don't care about what happened in the past. Now that he has returned to Jing City, I hope you can let him go, let him return to the family, and focus on his career. Lu Feifei didn't like what he said, and her pretty face turned a little cold. Annie, Zishuan has done a lot for me in the past few years, and I am very grateful to him. But you may have misunderstood one thing. It's not that I won't let him go, but he insisted on staying with me. When we were abroad, I told him that there was no need to stay in a foreign country for me. After returning to Beijing, I also advised him not to revolve around me. But he didn't listen to me, and there was nothing I could do. Chapter 48 Lin Jixuan, I'm annoyed. Lin's mother didn't say anything, and was somewhat skeptical about the truth of what Lu Feifei said. Father Lin didn't look happy and said, a few words can persuade someone? I think you just don't want my son to leave you. Without this money bag, how can you live such a comfortable life? Uncle, you misunderstood. All my living expenses in the past few years have been paid with my own money. Although she has earned a lot of money from writing books in recent years, raising a daughter is very expensive, so she didn't save much. Even so, she never spent Lin Zishuan's money, except during festivals when Lin Zishuan would buy gifts for his daughter. Uncle Zishuan is very good to me. I really can't bear to say something hurtful to him. You can regard this as my problem. At present, I haven't thought of a good way to make him leave me. Right now, I am investigating my father's whereabouts, and I don't have the energy to think about these things for the time being. When I find my father, I will think of a way. Neither Lin's mother nor Lin's father were very satisfied with Lu Feifei's reply. Lin's mother said, you can't just keep dragging it out like this because he's treating you well. The longer you drag it out, the greater the damage will be. Father Lin said, I'll give you 1 day to leave my son. Perhaps Mr. Lin's attitude was too strong, so Mother Lin hurried to explain. Ms. Lu, we have called Zishuan many times since he returned to China, but he always had various excuses to evade us. We had no other choice but to find you. Please just pity us as parents and help us. Lu Feifei nodded. I'll do my best. It's not about trying your best. It's about having to, Father Lin said sternly. Good. Lu Feifei had just returned to the community and met Lin Zishuan downstairs of her apartment building. Feifei, I knocked on your door just now, but there was no response. Where have you been? I've been staying at home for too long and can't write anything, so I just go out and walk around. The weather is quite hot, and the sun is shining brightly. Be careful not to get sunburned. Your skin is so delicate. Fiend. Lu Feifei pursed her lips, her mind full of Lin Zishuan's parents' words. Maybe she should be cruel for once. As the saying goes, a short pain is worse than a long pain. Zishuan, I don't need you anymore. Please leave. Lin Zishuan was surprised and smiled. Why don't you need me? Don't you want to find out where your father is? I've asked someone to look for him. We'll bring Xiao Futi back to China together in a while. You are not Xiao Futi's father. You don't need to answer the phone. Lin Zishuan felt that something was wrong with her today and looked at her for a few seconds. Feifei, what's wrong with you? Did I do something wrong to make you angry? Tell me and I'll change. Don't say those words and don't chase me away. He was always like this, begging her humbly. If it were the old Lu Feifei, she would have refused without hesitation, just like refusing a dog's begging for food. But since his family went bankrupt and he was imprisoned by Ji Tao for 2 years, he has changed completely. He has become sensitive, inferior, and indecisive. Lin Zishuan, what are you doing this for? I can't give you what you want. You've been following me around for so many years. I'm tired of you even if you're not. Lu Feifei raised her voice and glared. All I want is to stay with you, Feifei. You can give it to me. Being able to stay with Lu Feifei is a great luxury for him. A Rolls-Royce that had just arrived in the distance. The people in the car saw their tense situation, stopped the car, and looked like they were watching a show. Chapter 49, he actually hugged you. Lu Feifei took a step forward and said, ask yourself, Do you really just want to stay with me? Have you never thought about getting more? Lin Zixuan opened his mouth, but suddenly no sound came out. Yes, the purpose of doing all this is to touch her heart and to get her. Lu Feifei said again. Lin Zixuan, I'm really annoyed. Please don't bother me anymore in the future. Her face was indifferent, and she was about to leave after saying this. Lin Zixuan was completely panicked and at a loss. At that moment, he had only one thought: to keep her. He grabbed Lu Feifei's arm, pulled her into his arms with force, and held her tightly. Feifei, no, don't chase me away. His eyes turned red, and his voice became choked. It is impossible for anyone to be so hard-hearted as to make a man of 1.85 meters tall be so humble. You let me go. No, I won't let you go unless you promise me that you will never drive me away. Lin Zixuan. He didn't move at all, and I just held her tightly. In the past few years, he hasn't even held Lu Feifei's hand, let alone hugged her. The restraint was driving him crazy. At this moment, he just wanted to hold her quietly, even for just one more second. The Rolls-Royce in the distance suddenly rushed over like crazy. The sound of the engine came closer and closer. Lu Feifei turned her head and saw the cold and murderous face in the driver's seat. The car was coming towards them. The engine sound came from far away and approached in just a few seconds. Seeing that she was about to be hit, Lu Feifei subconsciously pushed Lin Zixuan. Lin Zixuan also wanted to push Lu Feifei away. The two men fell backwards, leaving a path, and a Rolls-Royce passed between them, bringing up a gust of hot wind. Are you crazy? Lu Feifei yelled at the back of the car. The car stopped a few meters away from her. Zixuan, please go first. I'm afraid he will embarrass you. Lin Zixuan looked at the car and hesitated for 2 seconds. Thinking of the current situation of the Lin family, he agreed. I'll go back to the Lin family to take a look. Jitao got out of the car and walked over. His gloomy face and anxious footsteps foreshadowed his anger. Lu Feifei felt something was wrong and turned around to escape. Jitao caught up with her in a few steps and grabbed her by the back of the collar like catching a cat. Jitao, let me go. Without saying a word, he ignored her struggles and resistance, picked her up, and carried her into the elevator. When he reached her door, he ordered, open the door. Just say whatever you want to say here. Lu Feifei said in a small voice, a little scared. Open the door. Ji Tao raised his voice, and the shocking pressure made Lu Feifei feel frightened. She had no choice but to press her thumb, and the smart lock opened with a beep. After entering the room, Ji Tao pushed her behind the door and raped her. Being able to endure this journey is already his limit. It was like a violent storm blowing in her face. Lu Feifei was forced to endure it. Her facial features were wrinkled, and her body gradually curled up like a devastated kitten. Ji Tao, that's enough. Don't do this. Don't. Ouch, it hurts. The sound was unclear. It was both a whimper and a plea for mercy. Ji Tao let her go, breathing heavily, looking at her with bloodshot eyes. He hugged you, actually hugged you. I should have killed him. Lu Feifei was shocked. If you want to kill him, the Lin family will not let you go easily. The balance between the Ji and Lin families will be broken, and you will definitely not get any benefits. As soon as she said this, she looked regretful. It seems like I care about him too much. Chapter 50. Baby, good boy. A smile flashed in Ji Tao's eyes. Baby, you care about me. Lu Feifei immediately denied it. Who cares about you? I care about Lin Zixuan. I'm afraid he's dead. You say one thing and mean another. Ji Tao put his arms around her waist with a smile on his face. It seemed that he was no longer angry, and Lu Feifei secretly breathed a sigh of relief. She found that this trick really worked on Ji Tao. Just now he was like a jackal, tiger, or leopard, looking like he wanted to eat her, but now he was like a well-behaved big dog. Then listen to your darling and save his life for now. As Ji Tao spoke, he suddenly tore off her skirt, revealing a large area of snow-white skin. Ah! Her skin is very good, smooth, shiny, and white. Suddenly, I was exposed, and the coldness hit me in the face. I felt cold and embarrassed, so I quickly covered myself. Ji Tao, what are you going to do? She screamed madly. He hugged you and touched your clothes. They're not clean anymore. Ji Tao picked her up and went into the bathroom. You get out. Lu Feifei was so scared that she stuttered. She pushed him out, and Ji Tao grabbed her little hand and said in a deep voice, Baby, take a bath and wash yourself clean. The hoarse and deep voice and the undisguised gaze made Lu Feifei feel ashamed. I can do it myself, Lu Feifei insisted. This made Ji Tao unhappy. I serve you. Why are you unhappy? If you don't obey me, I will eat you. Lu Feifei bit her lip and said nothing. She knew in her heart that Ji Tao could do it. Lu Feifei was wrapped in a thick blanket, with only her head exposed. Ji Tao stood behind him, holding a hair dryer to help her blow dry her hair. After you blow dry your hair, come with me to go somewhere. No. Lu Feifei rejected him without even thinking about it. You are such a heartless person. Ji Tao muttered, for the sake of the 500,000, you have to agree to me, right? Jilon finally investigated the matter thoroughly and found out that Lin Zixuan had also impersonated her. What do you mean by 500,000? Lu Feifei was puzzled. I don't owe you any money. Ah! Ji Tao sneered. I'll give you a keyword private detective. That's the money Zixuan paid for me. What does it have to do with you? Zixuan? You're calling me so affectionately. Ji Tao put down the hair dryer and glared at her. Lu Feifei didn't want to anger him, otherwise she would suffer, so she immediately changed her words and said, Lin Zixuan. Ji Tao stared at her for a few seconds. If you don't believe me, ask him who paid for it. Lu Feifei hesitated. Could it really not be Lin Zixuan? Is he really deceiving himself? While she was hesitating, Ji Tao had already picked up her cell phone and dialed Lin Zixuan's number. The call was answered quickly. Hey Feifei, are you okay now? Lu Feifei thought for a moment and asked, Last time, you paid the 500,000 yuan for me. I want to ask you, how did you know all this? Lin Zixuan fell into silence for more than 10 seconds. He really couldn't bear to lie to Lu Feifei again, and he also knew that Lu Feifei didn't like liars. Besides, since Lu Feifei asked this, she must be suspicious about something. He could only confess. Feifei, I'm so sorry. I cheated you last time. The 500,000 yuan was not my money at all. I'm sorry I was wrong. Please don't be angry, okay? Chapter 51, this is a punishment. Do you understand? Lu Feifei took a few seconds to react. Compared to Ji Tao, she would rather owe Lin Zixuan. Ji Tao is a moody person, especially if you give him some trouble, he will take advantage of you. For example, now he smiled. There are those who are proud, but also those who have bad intentions. When he couldn't hear Lu Feifei's voice, are you going to kick me out because of this? I'm sorry, Feifei. I was confused for a moment. I apologize to you. Please don't be angry, okay? Be humble and make concessions. Lu Feifei couldn't bear it and was about to speak when Ji Tao suddenly spoke first. Mr. Lin, my baby is very angry now, so you better get out of here as far as possible. The voice was lazy and casual, with a hint of mockery. Lin Zixuan was struck by lightning. Why? Is he here too? Did he hear how humble I was just now? My self-esteem was bruised at that moment. Lu Feifei glared at Ji Tao fiercely and said hastily, Don't listen to him. He is a very nasty person. Halfway through his words, Ji Tao reached out and pressed the red button, ending the call. What are you doing? Lu Feifei went crazy again. Ji Tao rubbed her face. You get mad so easily. Why do you answer for me? Aren't you meddling too much? How do you treat your creditors like this? Stop pretending. Lu Feifei rolled her eyes. You have been colluding with the private detective for a long time. Do you think I can't figure it out? Ji Tao was slightly stunned. The private detective suddenly raised the price, which was not his instruction. This detective does have some real skills, but raising the price is his usual tactic, and he has long been notorious in the industry. It's just that Lu Feifei just returned to Beijing and doesn't know all this. Baby, sometimes thinking too much is not a good thing. What's the meaning? Ji Tao didn't explain any further. She was so smart, she would definitely understand. Lu Feifei lowered her eyes and thought for a moment. Did I really blame him wrongly? Just when she was doubting herself, Ji Tao suddenly picked her up. Come with me somewhere. I'm not going. Lu Feifei's intuition told her that this was not a good place. Oh! Ji Tao agreed quickly. Lu Feifei was surprised. Have you felt guilty? The next second, she was thrown onto the big bed. Ji Tao supported himself on her side with one hand and unbuttoned his shirt with the other. Since my dear doesn't listen to me, I'll pay the 500,000 with my body. Lu Feifei. I saw that Ji Tao had unbuttoned all the buttons of his shirt, revealing his muscular chest and exciting muscular lines. Where are you going? Go now. It's too late. Ji Tao had already leaned over and kissed her, his big hands reaching into her clothes. Lu Feifei was trembling all over, and all the pores on her body stood up. It was an instinctive physical disgust that swept over her like the sea and swallowed her up. "No, Ji-Tao, don't do this." She begged for mercy in a low voice. Ji-Tao turned a deaf ear. The more scared she was, the more she resisted, the more I wanted to make her cry. Ji-Tao's breathing gradually became hot. He had missed her so much in the past few years that even a spark could make him burn with desire. Lu Feifei's resistance became more and more fierce. Ji-Tao pressed her legs with one leg and grabbed her wrists with both hands to prevent her from moving. He looked at the broken body on the bed, his eyes bloodshot. "Baby, why are you so disobedient? If you were good, you wouldn't have to suffer like this. This is a punishment, do you understand? I was wrong. I'm sorry. I promise you now. I will go with you wherever you want to go." Lu Feifei cried, tears falling down her face. Chapter 52, I'll support you. Ji-Tao's cell phone suddenly rang. He picked up quickly. He didn't know what the other party said, so he replied, "I'll be there soon." Ji-Tao pulled the person up and whispered in her ear, "I'll let you go this time. Change your clothes. I'll wait for you in the living room." Ah! Lu Feifei was stunned for a moment. She suddenly felt that Ji-Tao was just teasing her. What? You want me to help you change?" No, I could do it myself." Lu Feifei took off her wrinkled skirt and put on a new one. When she came out of the bedroom, Ji-Tao had also changed his clothes. At this moment, he was wearing a black handmade custom-made suit, which looked very noble. His face was wicked and flamboyant, and the way he looked at Lu Feifei was as if he was looking at prey. Lu Feifei didn't know where she was going and asked him several times on the way, but he didn't answer. The car stopped at the gate of Xingyuan, and Lu Feifei looked sideways for a moment. This is a Chinese-style building with two majestic stone lions at the door and a plaque with the words Xingyuan hanging on the door. "Xingyuan? Where? My mother lives here. Today is her birthday," Ji-Tao said as he got out of the car. "Why didn't you tell me earlier? I haven't even prepared a gift." Lu Feifei panicked. "Turn the car around quickly. I'm going to buy something. It's embarrassing to come back empty-handed." Ji-Tao didn't listen to her, went around to the other side, and pulled her out of the car. "Don't panic. Mother is not a stickler for details." "That won't work either." Lu Feifei still felt that it was inappropriate and too rude. Ji-Tao touched her head and said, "Don't worry. I'll support you." Without waiting for Lu Feifei to say anything, he took her hand and walked into the apricot garden. As soon as I entered the door, I saw a large koi pond with an elegant curved bridge over it. There were several apricot trees planted beside the pond. It was the season when apricots were ripe, and the trees were full of golden fruits. After crossing the curved bridge and walking along a cobblestone road, we arrived at the main building. Led by the servant, the two entered the living room together. There were already a few people in the living room, and Ji-Tao greeted a beautiful middle-aged woman sitting on the sofa. "Mother." The others just glanced and said nothing. In addition to the eldest sister Xin, there is another familiar face. He was suddenly surprised. My mother is not a true member of the Ji family. Over the years, she has never even stepped into the Ji family's doorstep. Because she used to be a lady. Before Ji-Tao came to power, Ji Yuankai even wanted to wipe out both mother and son. So over the years, the Ji family would not celebrate their mother's birthday. Only the eldest sister would come. But this year she brought one more person, her blind date Gu Yezhen. This made Ji-Tao feel very uncomfortable. Lu Feifei's attention was completely attracted by the woman on the sofa. She was wearing a black fishtail skirt, had a nice curvy figure, had heavy makeup on, and had her long black hair curled into big waves. She lay lazily on the sofa, holding a thin lady's cigarette between her fingers, puffing out smoke, looking sexy and charming. Ji-Tao's mother is 48 years old this year, but she looks only about 35. "Miss Lu?" Xin was surprised and walked up to her. "Let me introduce myself. I'm Ji-Tao's eldest sister. My name is Xin. Xin is in her early 60s. She is well-maintained, has a well-proportioned figure and delicate skin. She is wearing a royal blue velvet dress, looking dignified and decent. Lu Feifei knew her and had seen her at many banquets before. As for the one next to him, he looks a little unfamiliar. Xin continued to introduce. "This is the eldest daughter of the Gu group. She used to study abroad. As soon as she returned to China last year, she took over the family business. She is young and promising." "Hello." Lu Feifei pursed her lips and smiled. The eldest sister's gaze fell back on Ji-Tao. "Why didn't you tell me in advance that you brought your friends here?" You almost neglected Miss Liu. That sounds so fake. Chapter 53, He is the One in My Heart. Ji Tao snorted coldly. My elder sister brought people here without telling me. Ji Xan said, Yejin is going to marry you in the future. Today is a rare opportunity, so bring her here to meet your mother. Gu Yejin also felt a little apologetic. Please forgive me if I disturbed you. Lu Feifei froze. Is this his fiancée? Then, wouldn't I be redundant? She wanted to find a crack in the ground to crawl into. Ji Tao said coldly, I don't want to forgive you. As an outsider, you shouldn't come today. He was very disrespectful, and GXIN was a little angry. What about Miss Liu? Isn't she an outsider? She's the one in my heart. Ji Tao didn't hide it at all and said it directly. Lu Feifei. Isn't this pushing her into the fire? Zhu Fuling, who had been watching the show on the sofa, suddenly perked up when she heard these words. She didn't even want to smoke and looked at her son with shining eyes. Gu Yejin felt very embarrassed, but still smiled. I'm sorry, I was abrupt today. I'll leave now. Why are you walking? Come back and sit down. GXIN's attitude became stronger and his expression turned cold. Then I'd better go. Lu Feifei whispered. She is probably the most redundant person here. As soon as she turned around, Ji Tao pulled her back. He was very strong, and Lu Feifei staggered and fell into his arms. Ji Tao took advantage of the situation and hugged her, and they both fell onto the sofa. This intimate look made Lu Feifei's face turn red immediately, all the way to the base of her neck, as if blood was about to drip out. GXN rolled his eyes, walked to the other side of the living room, stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling window, looked at the koi pond outside, and tried to calm down. Gu Yejin comforted her, Big sister, don't be angry. Zhou Yi and I were never suitable for each other, and we don't have any emotional foundation. This can't be forced. The more she said this, the more GXIN wanted to accomplish this. Emotions can be cultivated. This is not a big problem. He was just bewitched by that vixen for a while. Don't worry, Yejin. I will definitely make you the daughter-in-law of the Ji family. Thank you, big sister. Lu Feifei struggled, but didn't dare to make too much noise. Ji Tao's arms were so strong that they held her down, and she could only protest with her expression. CSE's handsome face was full of smiles, and he said in a low voice, Don't move. I can't guarantee that I won't do anything. Lu Feifei's cheeks felt hot when she thought of his mother watching him. Zhu Fuling sometimes covered her face with a magazine, secretly revealing a pair of eyes, and sometimes pretended to eat fruit and took the opportunity to take a look. Sneaky looked like a spy. After a few minutes, she finally couldn't help it and waved to Ji Tao. Brat, come here. Ji Tao put Lu Feifei down and sat next to Zhu Fuling. What do you want, mother? Even though Zhu Fuling was not a very serious person, Ji Tao was always very respectful when facing her. Zhu Fuling covered her mouth with her hand and asked in a low voice, Is this Miss Liu, whom you have had a crush on for more than 10 years? Ji Tao nodded. Yes, mother. Zhu Fuling gave a thumbs up and said, Come on, Urza. Thank you, mother. However, you also have to handle your eldest sister properly and don't make her angry. Ji Tao entered the Ji family. He suffered a lot of oppression. GXIN helped him the most to achieve his current status. I understand, mother. Don't worry. Lu Feifei couldn't hear what they were saying, nor was she interested. She looked around and saw that no one seemed to notice her, so she prepared to run away. Chapter 54. Relying on beauty to eat rich food. She walked quickly and hurriedly, like a rabbit. Just as I was about to reach the living room door, I was suddenly grabbed by the throat by fate. Ji Tao pulled her back. He said in a deep voice, I don't want to get angry today, so just be good. I just felt weak and stuffy and wanted to go out for some fresh air. I saw a lot of koi in the pond just now, so I thought about feeding them or something. She backed off very quickly, and Ji Tao was amused. Okay, I'll go with you. Ji Tao took the fish food and stood shoulder to shoulder with Lu Feifei beside the koi pond. Behind them was the floor-to-ceiling window of the living room, inside which stood GXIN and Gu Yejin. I don't know if Ji Tao did it on purpose, but sometimes he touched Lu Feifei's head, sometimes he put his arm around her shoulders, or he bent down and kissed her cheek. Although he would be glared at by Lu Feifei every time, he never got tired of it. GXIN felt unlucky and upset when he saw this. He sighed and said, Forget it. I'll go to the kitchen to help. I'll go too. Gu Yejin followed closely. She has a strong psychological quality and can remain calm even when seeing the man she likes flirting with other women. Dinner was ready quickly. The long dining table was filled with sumptuous dishes and a large two-layer cake. Zhu Fuling said, "Everyone, please feel free to pick up whatever you want to eat." After she finished speaking, she started to pick up her chopsticks first. She was probably hungry, so she ate with big mouthfuls, very quickly and anxiously. As Ji Tao said, she is a person who doesn't care about details. The dinner table was quiet, and Ji Tao would pick up some food for Lu Feifei from time to time. He remembered exactly what she liked to eat and wanted to bring the dishes to her. Lu Feifei muttered, "You eat yours, I eat mine, I can just pick up the food myself." Ji Tao not listen. He even became more aggressive, and soon her bowl was filled with food. Seeing this, Gu Yezhen smiled and said, "Miss Lu has a really good appetite. Is this the physique that allows you to eat a lot without gaining weight? I'm really envious." Ji Tao replied, "Yes. Are you envious? It must be very hard to diet, so hard to maintain your figure." He just noticed that Gu Yezhen only ate a few bites of vegetables and didn't touch the meat at all, and then started drinking water. Gu Yezhen was so angry that her stomach hurt, but she had to pretend. She is indeed the most beautiful woman in Beijing that everyone envies. Even if the Lu family is no longer prosperous, she can still rely on her beauty to eat the food of the rich. Lu Feifei felt angry. "Miss Gu, it's inappropriate for you to say that. I am good-looking, but I have never relied on my beauty to make a living." Because her face was too prominent, she gave up her favorite singing and dancing and rejected countless scouts who contacted her. In the end, I chose writing and supported myself with my talent just because I was afraid of being misunderstood. Gu Yezhen was surprised by her big reaction. "Ms. Lu, please don't be angry. I have no ill intentions. I just want to express that you are beautiful. If my expression is wrong, I apologize to you." After she said that, Lu Feifei didn't dare to get angry anymore, otherwise she would seem too petty. Besides, today is Ji Tao's mother's birthday, and we can't ruin this dinner. Lu Feifei stopped talking, but Ji Xian didn't want to let her go so easily. How can the food of the rich be so delicious? Yezhen, only someone like you who is well-educated, generous, decent, and has a career is worthy of it. As soon as he finished speaking, Ji Tao suddenly stood up and overturned the table. The bowls and chopsticks were broken all over the floor, making loud clanging sounds, and the place was a mess. He was standing in the mess, his face grim and terrifying, as if the god of death had arrived. Chapter 55, My Baby is the Best. At that moment, everyone present was stunned. Lu Feifei. She looked at the scary man beside her in disbelief. It's his mother's birthday. How could he overturn the table? Is he crazy? Ji Xian was very surprised. She realized that she had touched Ji Tao's sore spot, but she quickly calmed down. Gu Yezhen seemed to be frightened. His face was pale, and his body was shaking slightly. Zhu Fuling was the only calm person in the room. She was holding a crab in her hand and eating it while watching the show. From Ji Tao made everyone afraid to speak. He raised his hand, put his arm around Lu Feifei's shoulders, and pulled her into his arms. He said in a cold voice, "If she can't eat it, then no one else can eat it." Just like now, he would overturn the table. After he finished speaking, his eyes fell on Ji Xian, full of warning. Ji Xian was helpless. "Ji Tao, you really misunderstood me. I just hope you can open your eyes and find a good woman. My baby is the best." There was no way they could have dinner today, so Ji Tao pulled Lu Feifei out. He took big and fast steps, and Lu Feifei had a job to keep up with him. Zhu Fuling waved at their backs and said, "Goodbye, son." Ji Tao paused and turned to look at her. "I'm sorry, mother. I just couldn't help myself." Zhu Fuling was naturally aware of his temper, as it had been like this since childhood. "It's okay. Mom left some in the kitchen." She knew that today's meal would not be good, so she specifically asked the kitchen to leave some food. At the gate of Xingyuan Garden, Jilan handed a gift to the servant, said a few polite words, then got back into the car and served as their driver. Lu Feifei was in a bad mood. Seeing her wrinkled face, which seemed to be very unhappy, Ji Tao asked in a deep voice, "Are you scared?" On the one hand, she was a little scared, and on the other hand, Ji Tao overturned the table for her, which aroused hatred. Ji Xian and Gu Yezhen must hate her to death. "You shouldn't have turned the table over," Lu Feifei muttered. Ji Tao chuckled. "If I don't flip the table, they will just take advantage of me." Lu Feifei didn't say anything. She leaned against the car window, looking at the neon lights outside that were rapidly receding, feeling heavy-hearted. Ji Tao is moody and erratic in his behavior. He is an extremely dangerous person. Being with him is like a sheep walking into a tiger's mouth. She is worried about herself now. What are you thinking about? Jitao suddenly moved to her side, gently hugged her soft waist, and leaned against her back. His breath was hot. Lu Feifei was startled and immediately turned around to look at him, covering herself with a smile. Nothing. You are lying. Jitao didn't believe it. Liar. Lu Feifei immediately added. I was wondering why I didn't see Dushabeo today. On such an important day, wouldn't he come to wish Grandma a happy birthday? Why, do you miss him? Jitao raised his eyebrows, feeling a little sad. Just curious. He was taken back to the Ji family mansion. Lu Feifei was shocked. Let him go back to the Ji family alone at such a young age and face such complicated interpersonal relationships? This is not good for the growth of children. Seeing her worry, Jitao added, as my son, he will be exposed to these things sooner or later. Being too naive is not a good thing for him. Lu Feifei understood. The red bean paste buns were indeed his tool for fighting for power. This man is cruel and heartless. Dushabeo is so pitiful. Chapter 56. I hope there will be no conflicts. One day later, Lu Feifei was at home thinking about her new book. She received a call from Lu Cece. The last time she had dinner together, she almost had an accident, so Lu Cece apologized to her for a long time and even bought a gift online and sent it to her. Fei, did you receive the things? Do you like them? She bought a brand name bag which was quite expensive. Lu Feifei, Cece, you're spending too much. That's nothing. If something really happens to you, I will blame myself for the rest of my life. It's okay now, so stop imagining it. After a pause, Lu Cece changed the subject. There's a cocktail party in a few days. Do you want to join me? I have 2 invitations. She was very excited and seemed to be looking forward to attending with Lu Feifei. But such occasions are no longer suitable for an ordinary person like Lu Feifei. Just as he was hesitating, Lu Cece said again, okay, Feifei, just accompany me. I'm so bored alone. You know, this kind of occasion is all about comparing with each other and flattering each other. I don't like it. Okay then, send me the time and place. Lu Feifei reluctantly agreed. By the way, when you are free, accompany me to the mall. I need to buy a new dress. That's not necessary. Have you forgotten what I do? I have a lot of dresses in my studio. I'll pick one for you when the time comes. That's fine. On the day of the reception, the cocktail party was held at the Sofitel Hotel, and Lu Cece booked a room in the hotel as a temporary dressing room. Gu Yezhin sat in front of the makeup mirror, looking left and right at herself in the mirror, and suddenly asked, Cece, do I have more wrinkles on my face recently? Lu Cece immediately replied, no, it's probably a lighting problem. But no matter how I look at myself, I feel like I've become uglier. Gu Yezhin looked at herself again. Tell me, why do some people not have to do anything? They are born so beautiful, and so many people spoil them. Lu Cece was stunned, as if she knew who she was talking about. But Gu Yezhin and Lu Feifei have nothing to do with each other, so why did he suddenly mention her? Lu Cece didn't dare to ask more, and smiled and said, Mr. Gu, you have a dignified and elegant appearance, and you are successful in your career. You are different from those women who rely on their looks to make a living. They are not even worthy of carrying your shoes. Gu Yezhin was obviously very pleased with what he said, and she laughed. Cece, you are smart. You can consider being my assistant in the future. If you're interested, I can also teach you some business matters, and you can help the family in the future, right? Lu Cece was immediately flattered. Thank you, Mr. Gu. Okay, I'm going to go entertain the guests first. Come down quickly after you finish your makeup. As soon as Gu Yezhin left, Lu Feifei arrived. She came here with makeup on, so all she had to do was change into a dress. Lu Cece was very happy to see her and immediately took out the dress. Feifei, take a look and see if it fits you. It should be about the same. Thanks. You're so kind. As Lu Cece was speaking, her cell phone suddenly rang. It was Gu Yezhin sending her a message. She had a friend who needed to touch up her makeup, so she asked Lu Cece to go downstairs and meet her. Boss Gu asked me to go down. Feifei, can you change it yourself? Mr. Gu? Lu Cece suddenly thought of Gu Yezhin. Yes, the eldest daughter of the Gu group, Gu Yezhin. I am her personal stylist. Didn't I tell you that last time? Lu Cece smiled proudly. Today's cocktail party is hosted by Mr. Gu. Lu Feifei was absent-minded for a moment. I hope there won't be any conflicts. Chapter 57, How About Calling Me Husband? Lu Feifei was changing clothes with her back to the door. When she heard the door open, She thought it was Lu Cece coming back. Cece, why did you come back so soon? Help me zip up the back of my pants. It seemed like something was stuck in her hair, and she pulled for a long time, but couldn't get it fixed. Soon she fell into a burning embrace. The aggressive and familiar aura enveloped her, and Lu Feifei's heartbeat slowed down. Why are you here? Ji Tao leaned against her back and rubbed his cheek against her hair. He didn't want to come, but when he heard that the cocktail party was hosted by Gu Yezhen and Lu Feifei would also be there, he had no choice but to come over to support her. He arrived early in the morning, and after seeing Lu Feifei, he followed her all the way. Surprise! It was a shock. Lu Feifei retorted. She didn't want anyone to know about her involvement with Ji Tao, as it would become a big trouble. Ji Tao had a smile on his face, and his big hands restlessly stroked her smooth and white back gently. His hands are a little cold. Lu Feifei was trembling all over. No, let me go. Don't let go of you. Ji Tao grinned evilly, deliberately misinterpreting her meaning. His hands suddenly reached forward. Lu Feifei screamed and subconsciously pushed him. Ji Tao, don't go too far. The more she resisted, the harder Ji Tao pushed. Lu Feifei frowned and nudged him with her elbow. This little bit of force was like a tickle to him, and instead it hit his own tendons, leaving his entire arm numb. Ji Tao became more and more outrageous, and his dress fell to the ground. He turned her over to face him and kissed her cheek gently. Lu Feifei was angry, frightened, and disgusted. They have been separated for 4 years and are no longer in that birdcage. So why does he still want to possess her anytime and anywhere? Obviously, it's not his property at all. The door handle suddenly turned, and Lu Feifei's eyes widened immediately, her heart almost jumping out of her chest. Someone is coming. Zitao Zhuke. The door handle turned all the way, but did not open. It turned out that he had locked the door when he came in. Lu Feifei breathed a sigh of relief. Feifei, why did you lock the door? Lu Cece's voice came, and Lu Feifei immediately replied, I'm changing clothes. Wait a moment, Cece. Hurry up. I've already received Mr. Gu's friend. Right away, right away. Lu Feifei agreed and lowered her voice to Ji Tao. Go hide in the bathroom. Ji Tao was displeased. Am I so shameful? I am not worthy of being seen. I don't want to tarnish your reputation, Master Gio. Ugh. Lu Feifei was too lazy to argue with him. She bent down, picked up the dress on the ground, and put it on. Baby, kiss me and I'll agree to it. Zitao so my weekday. Lu Feifei was very angry. This guy was deliberately making things difficult for her. Don't wanna? Ji Tao thought for a few seconds. How about calling me husband? You choose one. Ji Tao. Lu Feifei went crazy. Ji Tao raised his index finger and placed it on Bo's lips. Shh. Keep your voice down. The soundproofing is not good. Lu Feifei was startled and glanced towards the door. Lu Cece continued to shout. Feifei, are you done? How about you let me in first? Mr. Gu's friends are waiting to get their makeup done, and they can't be kept waiting for long. Lu Feifei pushed Ji Tao hard towards the bathroom. After reluctantly reaching the bathroom door, he suddenly refused to leave. He paused, grasped the door frame with both hands, and looked down at her. Kiss me. Chapter 58. Give me back later. Feifei, hurry up. Lu Cece urged again. Lu Feifei glanced in the direction of the door, hardened her heart, closed her eyes, stood on tiptoe, and kissed his thin lips. The movement is very fast, like a dragonfly skimming the water. Just as she was about to turn around and run, Ji Tao suddenly grabbed the back of her head and said, Is this a kiss? Even a mosquito can last longer than you. Give it to me later. Okay. Lu Feifei just wanted to comfort him, so she agreed readily, stuffed him into the bathroom, and slammed the door. The dignified president of G Group, the feared Jiu Yi, is now hiding in the bathroom because of her. It must be quite embarrassing. Lu Feifei opened the door. Lu Cece and Gu Yezhen's friends came in together. She was very professional and finished the touch-up in no time. Gu Yezhen's friend thanked him and left the room. Why did you look so panicked just now? Lu Cece looked at Lu Feifei and felt that something was wrong with her. I looked around the room again and found nothing unusual, except that the bathroom door was closed. She remembered that the bathroom door was not closed when she left. When I was putting on my dress just now, I couldn't zip it up. I was afraid that the dress would be damaged, and I was also afraid that you would get impatient waiting, so it's okay, don't panic. Even if the dress is damaged, I won't blame you. Lu Cece comforted her and asked, Did you use the bathroom? Ah. Lu Feifei was stunned for a moment. Ah, yes. Then he immediately changed the subject. Do you want to change into a dress? The cocktail party is about to start. I'm going to the bathroom to change. Lu Cece took out a light blue dress from the suitcase. Lu Feifei was startled and quickly stopped her. Let me help you. It's troublesome to change by yourself. We grew up together. We are just friends. Don't be shy. After changing into their dresses, they left the room together. Lu Feifei finally breathed a sigh of relief. Many people have come to the reception hall. Some are talking in low voices, and some are tasting wine alone. Lu Feifei appeared. She attracted everyone's attention. She was wearing a black one-shoulder dress, with her shoulders exposed and the waist cutouts on both sides, revealing a bit of her fair skin. The dress was ankle-length, and she wore a pair of one-strap stiletto sandals in the same color. Her hair was tied up in a bun, and she wore a small, diamond-studded crown on her head. It was obviously just an ordinary outfit, but on her, it made her look as charming as a princess. Lu Cece was so jealous that she was going crazy. She prepared for Lu Feifei was the simplest and most plain one, which cost only over 1,000 yuan, while the dress she herself was wearing was high-end and cost more than 100,000 yuan. Why can't I beat her? Many people didn't expect Lu Feifei to come. She was once a prominent figure in Beijing and the object of envy of many people. There has been almost no news about her in the past few years, and many people have started gossiping about her. Lu Feifei found a sofa and sat down. Lu Cece accompanied her. At least compared to those people, she is qualified to accompany Lu Feifei. When they look at Lu Feifei, it is the same as looking at her. As soon as I sat down, two people came over with wine glasses. Before she got close, two bodyguards in black appeared in front of Lu Feifei. The bodyguard was wearing sunglasses and a black short-sleeved t-shirt, and his strong biceps made the short sleeves very tight. The two bodyguards were as strong as two bears and looked difficult to deal with. The two men were scared away. Everyone thought that Lu Feifei hired this bodyguard herself. Only she herself knew that this was arranged by Ji Tao. Chapter 59. Master Gio. Do you still remember me? The presence of two bodyguards seemed to attract more attention. Some people stretched their necks just to take a few more glances at Lu Feifei's face. Lu Cece suddenly thought of a saying, as long as the face is there, the country is there. She was jealous that Lu Feifei was better than her in every way, but at the same time, she enjoyed this false attention. Those who did not dare to speak out before finally dare to express their opinions freely. You've made such a big fuss. Do you really think there are many people coveting her? You really think highly of yourself. You are no longer the eldest daughter of the Lu family. Why are you pretending? Even if she's not the eldest daughter, her looks are still there, and many people will have their eyes on her. There are so many beautiful women in Beijing. Who is she? Lu Feifei listened to these words with a blank expression on her face. Lu Cece's mind was no longer here. The more she thought about it, the more she felt something was wrong. Could there be someone hiding in the bathroom of the hotel room just now? Moreover, Lu Feifei was indeed very abnormal at that time. Feifei, I'm going to the bathroom. Lu Cece made an excuse to leave and took the elevator upstairs. She looked up at the jumping numbers and soon reached the target floor, which opened with a ding sound. As I stepped out of the elevator, I was greeted by a very noble man. His 1.9-meter height gives people a strong sense of oppression, and he has a handsome face, a cold and domineering temperament, and especially his narrow and long phoenix eyes, with a deep gaze that cannot be reached at the bottom of his eyes. You will fall for him at just one look. Lu Cece paused, and a horrifying thought came to her mind. Just now, could it be Master Gio? The two had already passed each other, and Lu Cece immediately turned around. Master Gio. Ji Tao turned around and raised his eyebrows. My name is Lu Cece, Lu Feifei's cousin. I've met her before. Do you remember me? I don't remember. Ji Tao had already opened the elevator door, and Lu Cece took 2 steps forward. Master Gio, why are you here too? Are you here for the banquet? You talk a lot. Ji Tao was impatient and had already pressed the door closing button. Master Gio, wait for me. Lu Cece tried to squeeze in. Ji Tao shouted, get lost. She was frightened to death. Lu Cece watched the elevator door close, turned around and went back to the room, checked carefully, and found no trace of the man. Is she really being too suspicious? Or is it really Master Gio? No, it's impossible. It is rumored that Ji Tao turned his love for Lu Feifei into hate, and after playing with her for half a month, he threw her abroad. If it weren't for Lin Zixuan, Lu Feifei would probably have died abroad. How could it be him? Ji Tao arrived at the banquet hall. He heard some noisy noises, as if someone was arguing. Lu Feifei was surrounded by many people, and the one who had an argument with her was a couple. Just now, she got up to get some wine. Although she was followed by bodyguards, there were still some men who refused to give up and came forward to greet her. Lu Feifei could reply. The other party's girlfriend showed up and accused her of seducing him. She now seriously suspected that the couple either had mental problems or were in collusion. The woman crossed her arms and said with disdain, "You vixen, you seduced my boyfriend and try to be his mistress? You are so shameless." Lu Feifei was neither hurried nor angry. She just glanced with contempt. "I'm not blind. With your boyfriend's ugly appearance, you don't really think others would like him, do you? He's obviously a weed, but you treat him like a treasure." Chapter 60 Idiot. Lu Feifei's panic was so destructive that the woman became so angry that her face turned red. The man hugged his girlfriend's arm and said pitifully, "Bao, I am innocent. I did nothing. She came to me and said she wanted to get to know me. Bao, you have to believe me. I am devoted to you and will never look at other women." Before Lu Feifei could speak, the bodyguard beside her said, "Sir, what you said is contrary to the facts. Miss Lu was standing by the table getting wine and snacks, just now, and you came over on your own initiative." There were bodyguards testifying, but no one seemed to believe it. She hired the bodyguard herself, so of course he's on her side. Who would believe that? Yes, if you have the ability, come up with some strong evidence. When the woman saw that the crowd was on their side, she immediately became proud. "You seduced my boyfriend and refused to admit it. You're just like your mother. Like daughter." Lu Feifei couldn't stand others insulting her mother. Anger took away her reason, and she raised her hand and slapped the woman in the face. "You can curse me for anything you want, but you can't curse my family." The woman was stunned, and before she could react, Lu Feifei slapped the man again. A man who tells lies will never die a good death. She was domineering and scolded her disobedient subjects like a queen. Everyone was silent and dared not speak. In a trance, it seemed as if she had returned to many years ago, when she was still the most beautiful woman in Beijing, full of vigor and vitality, whom no one dared to mess with. Not far away, Gu Yezhen watched all this with a sinister smile on his lips. He muttered, "What kind of young lady from the Lu family is this? She hits people in public like a shrew." As soon as the words fell, a cold voice came from behind. "I think it was a good fight. People who are dishonest should be punished." But he felt a little sorry for Lu Feifei. His hand must have been hurt. Gu Yezhen was surprised and turned to look at him. "Master Jiu, when did you arrive? I didn't see you the whole time." Ji Tao did not answer, but asked, "Are all the people you invited to your banquet these low-class people?" Gu Yezhen was speechless and could only say, "I'll kick those two people out right now. This farce ends here." Lu Feifei went to the bathroom to calm down. "When I came out, I was suddenly pressed against the corridor wall." He held Lu Feifei's hand and gently rubbed her palm. "Does it hurt?" Lu Feifei didn't have the time to care about this. She was very panicked. She looked around and didn't see anyone, so she breathed a sigh of relief. "Are you so afraid that others will know about our relationship?" Ji Tao was displeased. So many people wanted to get close to him, but she always tried to hide. Lu Feifei, "Don't you want others to know? Oh. Otherwise, why would you spread the rumor that I had already left the country 6 years ago?" Zitao Suden Li Samai. Although he had become famous in the heir of the Ji family in the past 6 years, in fact, he was walking on thin ice in the Ji family. It was a den of dragons and tigers, and if he was not careful, he would be killed. Pretending to hate her is the best way to protect her. To this day, only a few people in the Ji family know about their relationship: Ji Lan, Ji Aoqing, and now Ji Xian. But times are different now. "Then I will announce to the world now that you are mine. Will you admit it? I will die in front of you." "Fool." Ji Tao lowered his head and kissed her lips. What are you doing?" Lu Feifei was very scared. What if someone came? She turned her head to look at both sides of the corridor, but Ji Tao would not let her move and held her head fixed with both hands. "Don't move. Be serious." Chapter 61. You've been wronged. Come and cry to me. What should I do if someone comes? But Ji Tao didn't care about her and lowered his head to kiss her again. Lu Feifei's heart almost beat out of her chest. If someone comes, she won't be able to explain herself, even with 800 mouths. Maybe she was just unlucky or had a sharp tongue. but soon she heard footsteps. The dong-dong sound seemed to be stepping on Lu Feifei's heart. She was so panicked that she punched Jitao's chest hard. Jitao held her rebellious little hand and said in a deep voice, "Didn't you eat? It's like tickling too hard." "You!" Lu Feifei glared at him angrily. The footsteps were getting closer and closer, and it was too late to hide. Lu Feifei shrank her neck, curled up her body, and hid in Jitao's arms, and secretly prayed that no one noticed her. Jitao chuckled and wrapped her tightly in his suit jacket. The man stopped and looked at them. "Miss Lu, what's wrong? Are you cold?" It was Gu Yezhin's voice. Lu Feifei. The whole person felt as if struck by lightning. She thought the man was just passing by, so she hid in Jitao's arms without showing her face. If she had known it would be Gu Yezhin, she wouldn't have hidden. Now it's even harder to explain. Lu Feifei's mind raced, trying to find a reasonable explanation. Jitao smiled dotingly and said helplessly, "She was wrong just now and came to me to cry. She had to get into my arms and touch my abdominal muscles so that I could make it up to her." Lu Feifei. She really wanted to tear Jitao's nonsense mouth apart. Gu Yezhin chuckled. "I didn't expect Miss Lu, who looks innocent, to have such a hobby. It's true that you can't judge a person by his appearance." Although he seemed calm on the surface, his nails had already dug into his flesh. This should have been her man, her arms. Seeing her standing still, Jitao raised his eyebrows. "Are you still not leaving?" Gu Yezhin then realized his own mistake and smiled generously. "You guys take your time playing." The footsteps disappeared, and Lu Feifei immediately broke free from Jitao's arms. "I was so stuffy just now, and coupled with nervousness, my breathing was a little rapid and my face was red." The more Jitao watched, the funnier it became. "I hope Gu Yezhin isn't such a big mouth, otherwise, everyone in the city would know that you like to touch my abdominal muscles." "Shut up." Lu Feifei became angry and embarrassed. Lu Cici's shouts came from a distance. "Feifei, Feifei." Lu Feifei quickly tidied herself up and walked over quickly. "Where have you been? I've been looking for you for a long time, and I thought you were unhappy about what happened just now and left early." Lu Feifei explained. "My mood was indeed affected, so I came to the bathroom to calm down. I feel much better now. Have you seen Master Joe? You have a grudge against him. He won't take revenge on you, right?" Lu Cici deliberately tested. Lu Feifei seemed relatively calm. "I've heard about him, but I haven't seen him in person. Jioye's status is higher now than before, so he won't mess with an ordinary person like me. Besides, if he wanted to take revenge on me, he would have done it on the first day I returned to Beijing." It sounded reasonable, and Lu Cici nodded. As long as she was sure that she and Jitao would no longer be involved, that would be enough. Back to the banquet hall again. No one dared to talk about Lu Feifei anymore, and the atmosphere was pretty good at the moment. Just when she thought she could end today's banquet peacefully, the projection screen in the banquet hall suddenly lit up. Photos of cute little girls were playing on the projection screen. It was none other than Xiao Futy. Chapter 62, The Child is Mine and Feifei's. In the photo, the little girl is wearing a cute little skirt. Her hair is tied into a bun. She is holding a lollipop in her hand, and her face is full of smiles. She was accompanied by a man and a woman. They were Lu Feifei and Lindsay Xuan. There are about 5 or 6 photos, and each one shows the 3 of them in the same frame, just like a happy family of 3. Lu Feifei felt like she was falling into an ice cellar. Who leaked these photos? How were they taken? What was the purpose? Jitao, who was sitting on the sofa, suddenly stood up with a gloomy and terrifying face. The bodyguard acted quickly and unplugged the power cord. But those scenes just now have been seen by many people, and some people even recorded them with their mobile phones. As these photos were exposed, the banquet hall became chaotic and noisy. "Oh my God, they look alike. Could she be Lu Feifei's daughter? She actually has a child with Lin Xiao. My God, why don't you make it public? Mr. Lin likes her so much. She must not want to make it public. This kind of woman is the worst. It's really pitiful for young Master Lin. He even has a daughter, but she doesn't have a legitimate status. I guess he wants to establish a single persona so that he can find his next boyfriend." Those discussions, like a tide, drowned Lu Feifei and made her breathless. Lu Cici was also shocked. She actually has a child with Lindsay Xuan? Feifei, why didn't you tell me earlier? You already have the baby. No. Lu Feifei shook her head. She didn't know how to explain it. Do you want to acknowledge your daughter's true identity? But if that were the case, Jitao would definitely snatch the child away, and Xiao Futi would become like Dushabeo, a tool for him to fight for power. No, she must protect Xiao Futi. Then what's going on? Lu Cece continued to ask. Don't lie to me. Tell me the truth. She couldn't accept that the man she had liked for many years actually had a child with the woman she hated the most. Just when Lu Feifei didn't know what to do, a familiar figure broke into the banquet hall. It's him, Lin Zixuan. He was wearing a blue suit, and there was a hint of worry on his gentle face. His eyes were focused. He kept looking at Lu Feifei and strode towards her. Maybe he was in too much of a hurry, and he was still breathing slightly after he stopped. He said loudly, "The child is mine and Feifei's." Lu Feifei's eyes widened in shock. Why should he admit it? The crowd was shocked. Lu Cece looked like she was heartbroken and hid away crying. Then, Lin Zixuan said in a voice that only the two of them could hear, "In order to protect Xiao Futi's identity, this is the only way. There's no other way. Now that things have come to this, I have no choice but to admit it." There was a loud bang from behind the crowd. The discussion stopped instantly, and everyone turned to look. The glass coffee table in front of the sofa was overturned, and Ji Tao's face was gloomy, as if he was going to kill someone. Everyone was overwhelmed by his aura and even had to breathe cautiously. Lu Feifei didn't dare to look him in the eye, as if she was being stabbed in the back. Lin Zixuan had already received Ji Tao's warning look, but he was not afraid and even felt a little proud. No matter who this child belongs to, in the eyes of the public, he, Lin Zixuan, is now his. Ji Tao left the banquet hall angrily, and everyone thought he was angry because the banquet was ruined. At a banquet, Lu Feifei felt like she was being sent to hell. She thought that her future life would not be easy. Ji Tao will never let her go easily. Chapter 63, I Can Accompany You Anytime. Outside the hotel, Ji Tao came out surrounded by a group of people. The car had been waiting on the roadside. Jilan opened the back door and waited for him to get in. Suddenly, a female voice was heard from behind. "Master Jiao, it's Gu Yezhin." Ji Tao stopped, but didn't look back. His face was gloomy and terrifying, and he exuded a terrifying aura. Gu Yezhin took 2 steps forward and stopped behind him. "I also didn't expect that Miss Lu already has a family and children, and yet she is still involved with you. This behavior is really despicable. Master Jiao is in a bad mood. Do you want me to have a couple of drinks with you?" She is very smart, and at this moment, she just wants to be a confidant who can help him relieve his mood. But Ji Tao didn't appreciate it. "No." Gu Yezhin did not give up and said, "Master Jiao, you need to get rid of your bad mood. If you need me, I can accompany you anytime." Unnecessary. His refusal was merciless and ultimately hurt Gu Yezhin's self-esteem. Ji Tao's car sped away. She looked at the direction the car left, her eyes reddened. The party had become such a mess that there was no need to continue. Lu Feifei left, and Lin Zixuan followed her. "Zixuan, I'm going back first." She looked back, her face expressionless, and she looked listless. "Are you angry because I admit that I am Xiao Futi's father?" Lin Zixuan was a little flustered. "I heard that you were coming to the party tonight, so I wanted to come pick you up, but I didn't expect something like this to happen." Lu Feifei nodded with a smile. "I know it wasn't you who did it. You definitely don't want Xiao Futi's photo to be exposed. I believe you. She is always so considerate," which makes Lin Zixuan feel sorry for her even more. "If you don't like this, I'll clarify it another day. Just say, the child is adopted by us." "No need, Zixuan. If you keep going back and forth, it will only arouse Ji Tao's suspicion. It will be troublesome if he investigates further. Now that things have come to this, we can only take it one step at a time." Lin Zixuan nodded. "If it really doesn't work, I'll just be the cheap father of Xiao Futi." Lu Feifei pursed her red lips, but said nothing. Immediately afterwards, Lin Zixuan's cell phone rang. It was a call from his family. After he answered it, his face turned heavy. Lu Feifei was standing nearby and probably heard some key words, including child, go home, and explain clearly. What happened at the banquet might have reached his parents' ears. After hanging up the phone, Lin Zixuan said, "My parents asked me to go back. I will send you back first, and then..." Before he could finish his words, Lu Feifei rejected him. "Zixuan, since there's something urgent at home, you should go back first. I could take a taxi by myself. It's not far from here anyway." Lin Zixuan thought of his parents' strong attitude and angry mood. He was afraid that the 2 old people would get sick from anger, so he agreed to Lu Feifei's proposal. He hailed a taxi on the side of the road put her in the car, and then drove back to the Lin family. Lu Feifei was feeling very depressed. Xiao Futi is now Lin Zixuan's daughter. Within overnight, everyone in Beijing will know about it. Ordinary people's gossip, the Lin family's attitude, and more importantly, Zitao. I don't know how that big devil is going to torture her. When the taxi arrived at the gate of the community, as expected, we saw the magnificent Rolls-Royce. Master, let's get off here. Lu Feifei paid the money and walked over after getting off the car. Chapter 64. Either die or become a third. Ji Tao raised his eyebrows. He actually came over here on his own initiative. Is he so well behaved? Lu Feifei opened the car door and got in. Before she could close the door, she fell into a hot embrace. At the same time, Jilan got out of the car to smoke. Ji Tao put one hand around her waist and pinched her palm-sized face with the other. There was no light in the car, only a few beams of light from the street lamps outside. In the dim light, his eyes were like a dormant beast. When I think about the 4 years of happy life you and Lin Zixuan have lived abroad, I want to kill him. You and I have only lived together for 2 years. He spent these 4 years relying on his memories. Every detail of their time together had been replayed in his mind countless times. But while he was holding on to these precious memories, another man enjoyed her for 4 years. Thinking of this, he felt as ridiculous as a stray dog. Lu Feifei's face was pinched so hard that it hurt. Let go. Ji Tao turned a deaf ear. Don't you like children? Why did you give birth to one? Or do you just don't like my child? Lu Feifei looked straight into his eyes and suddenly smiled. You're right. I just don't like your kids. I don't love you, and I will never love you, let alone your child. Lin Zixuan and I are really together. The reason why we didn't make it public is because his family doesn't agree. So, Ji Tao, just give up and don't bother me anymore. You're really annoying. She spoke the cruelest words in the softest voice. It is also the biggest lie in the world. Every word was like a sharp knife, stabbing Ji Tao as hard. Perhaps it was too painful, and he was in unconsciousness for a moment. Lu Feifei broke free from his grip, but when her hand touched the car door, she was pulled back. He held her, tightening his arms until she could hardly breathe. I only have 2 options. Either die or become third. Lu Feifei was extremely surprised. You are the heir of Ji's group and the richest man with a net worth of hundreds of billions. Why are you a mistress? How will others see you if this gets out? I think you are crazy. She is very angry. Can't he love himself a little? Is this really necessary? Ji Tao laughed. Why? Are you afraid that others will gossip about me? Lu Feifei remained silent, fearing that he would misunderstand her if she said too much. But Ji Tao had misunderstood. Since you were so worried about me, why don't you break up with Lin Zixuan? What's the point of dividing? Lu Feifei said in a low voice. We have never been together. How can we break up? Then I'd better be the third one. Ji Tao spoke lightly, and Lu Feifei couldn't tell whether he was serious or just teasing her. Ji Tao, can you please be more sane? I've already said not wanting to listen to her nonsense. Ji Tao had already made up his mind and lowered his head to cover her lips. His kiss was more fierce than the previous ones, with a hint of punishment. The force in his hands became stronger, pinching her so hard that it hurt. She frowned uncomfortably and stepped back hard, while Ji Tao approached step by step. Finally, her head was pressed against the car window, and Ji Tao held her face and kissed her unscrupulously. Lu Feifei felt like she was going to suffocate, and she kicked her legs wildly when she suddenly bumped into something. Ji Tao's face froze, and then his facial features twisted. He was in so much pain that he brought his legs together, clenched his hands into fists, and sweat oozed from his forehead. Even though he was kicked in the vitals, he remained strong and didn't cry out. This is his last bit of dignity. Chapter 65. You won't be useless, right?